Hey everyone, welcome. Today I've prepared a compilation of my best Resident Evil videos, covering everything from Resident Evil lore to development history, spin-offs, and concepts. So if you'd like, settle in and I hope you enjoy. Chris is so fed up with lights, triggering Kijuju flashbacks, that he shoots the ever-loving out of his TV. Over the years, we've dealt with live-action Resident Evil projects that have been, you know what, let's not retread that ground. But there's one I remembered fondly, and finally decided to revisit after all these years, and that's the viral ad campaign for Resident Evil 5. Today I'm talking about Chris Redfield, arguably the most prominent protagonist throughout the Resident Evil series, and a specific, deeply interesting part of his life you may have never known about. I'm not gonna lie, when these viral ads first came out, these glimpses of his life made me nervous to see what was going to happen to Chris Redfield in the game. And that's because they're set after the events of the game. Chris recovered Jill and Wesker is dead. But I didn't know that at the time. Nobody did, because the f***ing game wasn't out yet. And the Chris we see in these live action ads is broken. Thoroughly, utterly shattered by what he's gone through. And this is Chris coming back home and trying to readjust to everyday life, and realizing he can't. And he probably never will, but more on that later. The first episode sees Chris being honored at a BSAA ceremony, and given a medal following the Kijuju incident. And the very first words Chris speaks as he narrates this moment are heartbreaking.
It's amazing how far you can get in life.
Needs to know the difference between lives saved
by destroying the lives of others.
This is what he's thinking while watching a decorated superior giving a speech about his heroism. And right from the beginning I find that fascinating, because we've been in his shoes. We've played as Chris in several Resident Evil games, and I think most of us consider him a hero. Even the players who don't like him or just think he's boring would probably agree with that, but he doesn't. And why is that? The first time I saw these, I didn't know. I had no idea what was going to happen in Kijuju, or what Chris would have to do to get through it. All these years later, as I started to rewatch this, at first I laughed. What the hell was so special about Kijuju? Chris had already lived through the Arclay outbreak, Rockfort Island, and other assorted canon storylines. Aside from finally killing Wesker, what was the big deal? That game was basically an 80s action movie with the occasional Lord of the Rings mountain troll and black spaghetti monster thrown in from time to time. Then I really gave it some thought. And that's the thing, we've controlled Chris in games, but we don't really know what he'd be thinking from one minute to the next. We're not really him. And then one by one, it started to hit me. What happened to Jill alone would easily be enough to break him. His most trusted partner and friend for years, with whom he had gotten through terrible situations before. He straight up thought she died sacrificing herself for him. And if that weren't already enough of a bummer, he realized a considerable span of time later that not only was she still alive, but held captive, brainwashed, and used by the very person they both despise the most, Albert Wesker. He had taken Jill and experimented on her with this device that burrowed into her chest and pumped her full of a virus that made her less human, submissive to Wesker, but almost feral in a fight. And this happened to her because Chris failed. His ass was handed to him by Wesker, and what's worse, Chris didn't find her. He couldn't. He wasn't able to stop any of these horrible things from happening to his partner. And hell, to this very day, that is canonically the last time we have seen Jill Valentine. Last we heard anything about her, she was still being kept in quarantine by the BSAA, and unable to go back to an ordinary life. And it seems very fitting that neither can Chris. He accepts his award and steps up to the podium to make his speech, and he can't. He's facing a massive crowd that likely reminds him of zombies or the Majini he fought in Africa. Their cameras flash in his eyes, like the muzzle flashes of weapons used by allies and enemies alike. He looks down at his prepared speech and sees insane scribblings covering the pages. And that's it. He breaks down. And the very same superior who sang his praises is now, if you listen closely to the very end, making excuses while hurriedly ending the very public ceremony. And my favorite moment here goes to Sheva. Not because she's Sheva, but because she moves to recover Chris's loose pages, and she stops for a moment to stare at them, almost disturbed. We don't see what she sees. It's all left to the audience to interpret her reaction. Was Chris hallucinating those scribblings, or had he actually made them on those pages? We'll get back to that later. The main thing to focus on is that Chris doesn't see himself as a hero, and in fact, he very likely sees himself as a failure. But let's move on. The second episode shows Chris on a date as they sit on a rooftop, looking forward to watching the sunrise together. And things seem to be going very well for my boy here, based on what this pretty lady is saying.
I can't think of a better way to end a date than this.
Who says it has to end?
To me, I can't watch this one without actually physically cringing, and it's very difficult to tell if that's the intent, or if things only feel that way because of flaws in the acting or directing. To me, the weirdest moment comes when Chris grabs this camera and just gets all up in that personal space for this odd moment.
It's confession time.
What is that?
Anything you want to admit?
I don't know. I'm probably guilty of something.
Let's talk about it.
I don't.
His date doesn't really know what to say, and things just feel super awkward and off-putting. Yeah, it's a bit rough. But things only get worse when the glare from her compact triggers another episode that he can't pull himself out of. By the time he regains his composure, she's gone, and he's left there alone as he again provides narration.
Death is nothing to be proud of. And survival is sometimes worse than death.
I think there's a lot that can be drawn from that statement. To me, I read it as he doesn't want to end up as a martyr for a lost cause, but surviving with all this pain and guilt is incredibly difficult. He feels trapped. Very much a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation at this point in his life. This is where I want people to remember. This was created well before Capcom basically made a meme out of Chris leading people to their deaths. He wasn't even a leader at all in RE5. He and Sheva were equal partners going against orders after a certain point. No team, just occasional assistance from people like Josh Stone. But he still saw a hell of a lot of death. Not just people he knew personally, or BSA agents just like him, but also all the innocent infected he's been forced to put down. That's heavy, Doc. Also, fun fact, I distinctly remember people on message boards wildly speculating that his date was actually Ada Wong undercover, and that this totally meant she was going to be in RE5, even though we knew this was taking place after. Yeah, sometimes fan speculation is, just plain dumb. Like all of you who swore up and down that it was Billy Cohen in RE5's first trailer, not Chris. Shout out to all my optimistic homies still wanting Billy to return. Hang in there, mother lovers. Episode 3 is a fun one, mostly because it features Claire. We very rarely get to see the Redfield siblings interact, so it's always welcome. The most interesting thing here is that they're running through a training course together, fully kitted out with weapons and gear, which seems to imply that, at least at this point, Capcom had also intended her to be part of the BSAA. Claire's mention of speaking to the company shrink about Chris also suggests this.
So, I heard the company shrink thought.
So Claire Redfield listens to shrinks now.
I'm just asking how my big brother's doing, a jerk.
This is obviously before they settled on the Terrasave direction for her, but still, it's pretty neat to get a glimpse at what could have been. Even so, Chris shrugs off her concern, and Claire doesn't really take it well. And when Claire opens fire at something off camera, Chris has another episode. The narration this time around feels a bit out of character.
Why did I have to go? Why couldn't it have been someone else?
It's a natural response to experiencing trauma, of course. It's just not something you'd expect to hear from Chris Redfield, but maybe that's the point. He's not himself. He's struggling and clearly losing it, and it's starting to affect his relationship with his sister. He may be a boulder-punching asshole, but you can't punch away mental illness. Hey, somebody write that down real quick. Those are wise words, damn it. The next episode is the most troubling. It starts with more narration from Chris.
I hope there's something waiting for me out there.
He's made his way to this massive bridge on a dark, foggy night, and seems to give no second thought to climbing the side as a security camera watches. He continues.
No matter how hard I try, I just can't seem to escape my memories.
As he stands inches from the edge, seeming to gauge the fall, and at probably the worst possible time, he turns to see a rotating orange light that triggers another episode. By the time he gets out of it, he's sat on the concrete near his vehicle covered in blood, and after a moment of disorientation, he finds the word Kijuju carved into his arm. So yeah, this episode features some heavy themes that I can't even go into with any depth, lest YouTube grab my channel by the throat and yeet it to the sun. But luckily, all you three-dimensional meatbags out there should see it without me pointing it out. Chris is nearly at the end of his rope, and even in his darkest moment, he's hounded by violent flashbacks and has a severely alarming self-afflicted injury. Or so I assume, but I guess the trauma fairy could have pulled a drive-by on his ass while he was seizing up. In any case, it's just sad to see such a good dude in a tough place. He's a founding member of the BSAA, and you'd assume he began that journey hoping to clean up Umbrella's mess and keep people safe. But here's the open, dirty secret of the Resident Evil universe. It's screwed. Everything. Umbrella's evil is always going to exist. Its research and creations are out there, circulating in the black market, being replicated for profit endlessly. There's no preventing outbreaks anymore. All people like Chris and Jill can do is try to help minimize the damage once they happen, and they will happen, because anyone rich enough, or with the right connections, can cause a new Raccoon City incident on a whim. And I'm sure Chris realizes that. I mean, look at him. That's somebody who feels hopeless. And unfortunately, I don't think that's gonna change. This last episode leaves us with that impression. Before getting into the meat of it, I'll say that what we'll see here is Sheva coming to get Chris because they have new orders. But listen to this opening narration. You can hear the frustration, most of all in his choice of words.
There are some things you can't run from, and there are some things that never die. The human brain is a complicated bitch. Once an image is burned in, it's scarred there forever.
But now let's take a look at where Chris is living. There's a couple of nice things to say about it. He's got a small African statue collection, which makes sense. He and Sheva sure as shit plundered Kijuju on their little adventure. I personally think it's a nice touch that he owns a typewriter. And he's got a nice little fish friend. Look at the little guy doing, I don't know, fish things, I guess. The fuck does a fish do? But holy shit, look at this place. He's gone full Kevin Spacey in 7, and you never go full Kevin Spacey in 7. You don't really want to be Kevin Spacey adjacent, let alone Kevin Spacey in 7. Even K-Pax would be more acceptable than that. I'm probably like one of 5 people who remember that movie, and I fully recommend it. But let's also point out that Chris is so fed up with lights triggering Kijuju flashbacks that he shoots the ever-loving shit out of his TV and still has one final episode. He's full on drowning himself in his bathtub before Sheva pulls him out of it. And she doesn't really think twice about it. Just hands him a towel and tells him they have a new mission. And this is by far the most telling thing about Chris's character. We've seen him struggling to live for several episodes now, but the second there's a crisis, he jumps into action. Gears up, grabs a considerable collection of guns, and even starts rushing Sheva. Now remember when I mentioned Chris's speech in the first episode and how we didn't see what Sheva sees on the pages? There was a similar moment with Claire, where Chris is staring at Kijuju graffiti on the wall, but we never quite see her see it, so we don't know if it's real. But as Sheva walks through Chris's place, we see her reaction to the way Chris redecorated. Full Kevin Spacey in 7. My boy has problems, and he's not addressing them. He's living mission to mission, avoiding his trauma, and it's changing him. Now, have I looked a little too deeply into something that amounts to a few minutes of commercials? Ah, hell yeah, of course. But the mental illness we see taking hold of Chris in these shorts is followed up on by Capcom. In RE6, Chris is bogged down with PTSD and survivor's guilt, becoming excessively aggressive and oftentimes irrational. And while he's a bit more chill in RE7 and his solo DLC,
how do I stop it?
You need to find a way to shut down the server. There may be some transformer relays you can... Okay, that worked. Gonna be some pissed computer techs up here, but...
From your river.
In Village, we again see him being entirely too aggressive and making bad decisions in the heat of the moment. Though a lot of that is from him just trying to prevent more collateral damage.
Where is he? Chris, what have you done?
He's gone. I tried. He stayed so we could all escape. I'm sorry.
So while these ads may not necessarily be canon, though I'd argue they could very well be, the ideas introduced here are being continued to this day. So all you people hating Chris Redfield for being boring, I don't know what to tell you. You're just flat out wrong. For all the memes about boulder punching, Chris Redfield is the most humanized character in this series. And I hope Capcom does him justice when they conclude his story. Hashtag justice for Chris. I'm baffled and hope to see you all next time. Bye. There's been a ton of RE spin-off titles from the main series. Some of them were good, some of them were shit, and one of them was Resident Evil Gaiden. Take that for what you will. But I'm here to tell you that the best Resident Evil spin-off doesn't exist yet. I mean, you saw the title, right? I shouldn't need to tell you this again. So, I'm sure plenty of you out there have tried XCOM Enemy Unknown by Firaxis, or maybe its sequel. For the uninitiated, this is a turn-based strategy game series that centers around building up an elite team of soldiers to combat alien invaders. The catch is, if your little guys die under your command, well, they're dead. Like, dead. Don't know how else to say it. They're dead, Jim. Yeah, it's brutal, but also addictive. I mean, if you so choose, you're creating all of these soldiers yourself, naming them, picking their nationalities, their class, writing their biographies, and customizing their appearances. It's easy to get attached. You're like a proud parent who sends all of their children to die horrible, gruesome deaths if you make the wrong move during combat. It's fucking awesome. You're not just taking part in combat missions. You're leveling up your main team, funneling in new recruits, researching new weapons, gear, and tech with which to drive back to the invaders, and then deploying into combat zones across the globe. Important decisions must be made, including what parts of the world you should prioritize saving. These aliens are attacking multiple states and countries simultaneously, and all the whores and politicians shout, "Save us!" And I look down and whisper, "No." Sorry, my inner Rorschach came out again. All this black and white gets to you after a while. But anyway, all this is to say that I'd gladly make all this the jumping off point for my dream RE spinoff, with key differences. So this video is based on an idea I had years ago, and others have clearly had the same idea judging by a Reddit post I found, in addition to a crap ton of RE mods being made for XCOM 2 itself. So I'm in no way trying to call myself some kind of visionary. In fact, I'm quite clearly a buffoon. I merely want to talk about my specific version of what this sort of spin-off could be. Keep in mind, my idea wasn't quite up to date with certain revelations that may or may not have unfolded in RE8. But fret not, the simple solution is to set this earlier in the timeline. Post RE6, but pre-RE7. Got it? Good. The story, and therefore all gameplay, is centered around the BSAA. The basic gist of the XCOM formula is the same. You create troops, level them up, research shit, deploy globally, etc. Rather than an entire alien race serving as an antagonist, the BSAA just exists in a world where horrible viruses and other bioweapons are being sold on the black market, resulting in bioterror attacks happening on a near constant basis all around the world. All around the world, bad shit happens to me. Resident Evil fans can imagine the possibilities here, and what sort of enemies we'd be fighting.
Rolling out. Shot wide.
Zombies, tyrants, Las Plagas. The greatest hits from the whole series should be here to some degree. In my opinion, I like the idea of each outbreak having its own self-contained stories told through scattered notes and files, not so differently than the main games, as we learn about an individual or group who carried out the viral attack for unique reasons. I feel that would add an additional sense of uniqueness to each deployment. But if Capcom were to run with this game, they could easily tie in an overarching plot involving the connections or some other shit. Rest assured, it'd be my personal goal to use this game to tie up lots of dangling plot threads from the series. Who or what exactly was HCF? And what were their goals? What did they do with Steve's body, etc.? I'd want to tackle seemingly abandoned plots from other spin-offs too, like what are Jessica and Raymond up to? That sort of thing. I think that's enough context and story talk for now. Let's get down to brass tacks. What would we be doing during gameplay? And how could we differentiate the game from XCOM? Well, we add as much Resident Evil flavor as we can. As with other games in the genre, a deployment could be one of several mission types. After all, not every BSAA team is being sent to track down a mad scientist and fight a large boss. Sometimes you're sending your team to save civilians from an outbreak zone.
Copy that. Come on. Come on.
I'm on it.
XCOM already has civilian rescue missions, but mine would be a bit different. For one, my civilians would not be made of papier-mâché. They'd be slightly more durable, specifically because there's an infection component here. Every attack they suffer from BOW enemies carries a percentage of risk for infection. Once infected, an RE outbreak-like viral meter activates for the infected civilian. Every subsequent turn increases their rate of infection. If that meter fills before you can extract them from the zone, they'll turn into whatever BOW is appropriate based on the virus. Extract them before it maxes out, and they get transported back to base and earn you some rewards. But there's a catch. During a mission, killing BOWs made from a virus earns you samples of that same virus to take back to base. T Veronica, G, hell, let's get the whole damn alphabet up in here. Even various types of parasites like Nemesis or Las Plagas, etc. Collecting more and more of these samples allows your home base to develop stronger vaccines to counteract each infection, which you'll need since each infected civilian you extract to home base leads to a chance of an outbreak event occurring there. Suddenly, all of your staff, soldiers, and resources are at risk. A home outbreak event at the base leads to a deployment within the base. Probably the most stressful mission type you can have. You're still just controlling your typical team of around 5 soldiers, but now everyone else you've collected will appear as NPCs during battle. NPCs that are being attacked, just like you, and possibly turned. As a mission, your base would be broken up into multiple combat zones. Barracks, infirmary, laboratory, R&D, etc. You'd have to choose the order in which you clear these zones. Your scientists don't have weapons training and are basically defenseless, not to mention the value of their research. Do you head to the labs first to wipe out the enemies before the scientists are turned? Oh, your favorite soldiers are temporarily recovering from injuries in the infirmary. Do you head there first to ensure their safety? Sure, they can use weapons, but injured soldiers are prone to panic and other status ailments, not to mention handicaps. So are the odds really in their favor? No matter what, you're going to suffer losses during a home outbreak event. The objective is simply to minimize it, or ensure it doesn't happen at all. Maybe that infected civilian is too much of a liability. It adds to the choices you'll be making while playing. Much of your time will be spent in small outbreak zones, saving civilians, raising your support levels from various countries, and earning resources for weapons or armor development. Like XCOM. But large-scale outbreak zones are the main event. Large-scale outbreak zones would, in addition to being on a large map, feature the most complex backstories and plots, as well as ending with a boss fight. However, as with every good RE game, these missions also have some secrets to uncover. Achieving a series of set objectives within each large-scale outbreak zone leads to one of several fan-favorite characters deploying into the mission and joining your squad. Whether it's Chris, Jill, Sheva, or even Leon on temporary loan from the government. These heroes feature impressive stats and come equipped with powerful weapons. More than that, they have an important extra ability. Having been through all the tropes of the series previously, these heroes are more privy to the kinds of secrets and puzzles bio-terrorists tend to use. I imagine the activation of this ability looking like Batman's detective vision from the Arkham games, highlighting otherwise undetected triggers or passages in the mission environment. This is important specifically because each large-scale outbreak zone would feature a hidden second section, which unlocks when a hero finds the entrance. This entrance would typically lead to an underground lab, from which the outbreak originated.
I'm all over it. I can't move!
Proceeding through the section would then lead to an encounter with a villain or giant monster, or a villain who mutates into a giant monster. And hell, for more of that Resident Evil flavor, why not end with an escape from a self-destruct timer? To recap, large-scale outbreak zones could be quote-unquote won without the deployment of a hero. But to get the true ending of the game, you would have to fully clear each large-scale outbreak zone with the use of a hero, which you'd want to do anyway to get more rewards. Without getting too bogged down into the exact story details, I did mention earlier that I'd like to tie up as many loose ends as possible. That includes specific characters who we know are just out there somewhere, drifting in the wind, waiting for the day Capcom writers remember they exist. Well, Pepperidge Farm remembers. So throughout the game, you'd be presented with missions based around arresting certain antagonistic characters. Hunk, Jessica, Raymond, etc. Hell, maybe even that science dork named Gorgon who we see in RE3 Remake's intro. He looks very punchable, just saying. These would be similar in nature to XCOM's Kill or Subdue VIP missions, though I do want to tread carefully here for the sake of canon. The objective at the start of these missions would be to simply arrest these high-profile targets. Whether they surrender to capture or fight till a more bitter end would, frankly, be up to each specific target. A self-serving individual like Jessica may opt to be arrested in hopes she can escape later or make some type of deal. A trained soldier like Hunk, on the other hand, might just go out in a blaze of glory during a crazy last stand. I think it'd be fun to even have a mission featuring Ada Wong. She's been tracked down by the BSAA and you're tasked with catching her. Maybe with Leon tagging along, cause hell, we know how much Capcom loves to blueball the guy. Even after beating her in a boss battle, would you expect her to give up? No, she'd of course escape. I don't know, maybe that sounds lame to you guys, but I like the idea of these targeted assignments being unpredictable no matter your intention to win in the beginning. Now, as I continue to draft this idea for my Perfect RE spinoff, I can't help but think of additional features. Multiple endings are common in the series, and as mentioned earlier, I'd want that to be true here as well. Let's say you successfully win all large-scale outbreak zones, but didn't 100% them by using the heroes to find the secret boss. And you successfully completed every targeted assignment. Oh, and the world didn't collapse into a dumpster fire. You'd earn the good ending. Doing all of the above, but actually 100%ing the large scales using the heroes, would earn you the true good plus ending. Good job. And let's say you have the strategic mind of a blind, one-winged goose, and therefore the world collectively dies a horrible death. Well, that, my friends, unlocks the complete global saturation ending. Hell, this wouldn't even be canon anyway, so why not have some fun with this one? After the credits show a very much alive Wesker watching gory news footage from the comfort of a bubble bath. With an accompanying rubber ducky, of course. He's wearing sunglasses, and so is the rubber ducky. He then laughs, gives a smile, and maybe even gives the rubber ducky a victorious squeeze. But aside from all that, there's one extra path I'd like to include, with the limitless budget within my mind. XCOM has a mechanic where you can sell resources on the black market for quick cash, rather than using them for research. In my spin-off here, I'd offer something similar, but maybe expanded a bit. Yes, you, the player, as a high-ranking member of the BSAA, would be able to sell virus and parasite samples for quick cash. But maybe this affects your game. Maybe selling a ton of Las Plagas samples throughout your game, for example, causes smart gun-wielding ganados to become more prevalent in missions, replacing what might otherwise be zombies by default. And heaven forbid you sold off a bunch of Nemesis parasites. Oh boy. And perhaps hitting a certain threshold of black market sales would cause other changes. Maybe a targeted assignment would end with a bribe instead of an arrest. Actions like these would lead to an additional ending. The greedy ending, let's call it. Basically, I'm saying the RE franchise has the potential to adopt other genres, and this is just one such idea. These days, there aren't enough turn-based strategy games with a decent budget to back them up, and RE, with so much of its characters being trained soldiers, ex-cops, or generalized ass-kickers, can slot so easily into that genre and bring a complex story with it. But this is just one of the ideas bouncing around in my head. What sort of spin-off would you guys like to see? Let me know in the comments so we can share the misery over the fact that these things don't exist. I, for one, would also love a spin-off series, kind of Revelations-esque, perhaps with a lower budget, but with gameplay from the old fixed camera perspective with tank controls. But I know, that's a pipe dream. But that's all I got for you guys today. Sadly, I had to cut this down to a digestible length, so a lot of fun stuff got cut out. Like, imagine how the various BOWs could interact and play off of each other. Like when RE Damnation had lickers controlled through the use of Las Plagas. Imagine an advanced Nemesis leading a death squad of tyrants. Just saying. I'm baffled. and hope to see you guys next time. Bye! Do I need to do this? Like, really? I mean, yeah, okay, I said that I would. But I didn't expect this. Netflix has dropped turds before, don't get me wrong. But this? I wasn't ready for this. This pilot episode was honestly enjoyable. In the future timeline, we meet our protagonist, Jade, as a researcher living among the zombies. Sorry, zeros. To track how they evolve over time. She's been there for 6 months, seemingly out in the field every single day to watch how the zeros track the scent of blood and see how they behave as a group. A very careless mistake leaves Jade with a cut on her wrist, whipping the zeros into a frenzy and causing an intense chase back to her living quarters and its defense systems. After being attacked by a giant mutated caterpillar, we cut to the past. Teenage Jade and her sister Billy moved to the South African town Neo Raccoon City with their father, Albert. I'll be honest here, the teenage drama aspect of this series is one of the things I was most dreading. However, while Jade's snotty attitude can be a little much at times, as this first episode handles it, this past timeline is quite interesting. And yes, a lot of that has to do with Lance Reddick's portrayal of Albert. He comes off as a father who truly cares, but finds himself torn between his job responsibilities and his duties as a father. The best scene in this first episode belongs to him. After a situation with a girl who bullies Billy gets out of hand, Albert's encounter with the bully's father, another Umbrella Corporation employee like every parent in town, is ridiculously memorable. Reddick's Albert is quietly and effortlessly intimidating throughout. Not only does he point out that the other father's job could be done by just about anyone, but Albert also quite bluntly states that he personally holds enough sway to have the man blacklisted by every big tech company in the world. What results is a scene where this man essentially melts into a puddle of piss on the floor as he forces his daughter to apologize to Billy Wesker. Not only does Albert manage to strip this man of his dignity, but also causes the man's daughter to lose all respect for him, and it is an absolute delight to watch. A less talented actor could have made the same scene with the same lines come across a bit dull, but not Lance fucking Reddick though. There's also a section where teen Jade and Billy sneak into Umbrella HQ hoping to liberate the test animals. It's more than a little contrived, especially as Umbrella's entirely security system was foiled by an audio clip of Albert's voice played over an iPhone. But the ensuing chaos when a Cerberus hound was let loose and pursues the sisters was actually pretty exciting, and blew away Welcome to Raccoon City's use of the same monster. Then we go back to the future stuff, and honestly, it's lame. Adult Jade is rescued by scavengers, but also sold out to Umbrella due to a bounty on her head. A fat, evil, white Umbrella man arrives on scene. He and his cronies start killing people. Jade escapes. That bit wasn't exactly exciting, but not terrible. Although having fat, evil, white man whip out a candy bar was... All in all, I would be quite interested to see where the first season would go if it weren't shoved headfirst into the ass of the Resident Evil series like some horrifying attempt to make a zombie turducken. It started with an immediate reversal of the whole Billy was mauled to death cliffhanger from the previous episode, meaning she just sprang back to life after appearing to die, eyes wide open and all. Adult Jade also survives her cliffhanger, as plot armor completely prevents her body from shattering after a leap of faith. Aside from this, by the time I sat down to review this second episode, I couldn't remember what the fuck happened in it. There were some decent character moments here, especially for the Wesker family. The way they portrayed Billy's infection was a bit hokey in the way it was staged and shot. I don't know, it just came across a bit goofy to me, seeing her just shuffle around in a daze while seeing everything cast in red lights. Aside from that, this is the one time where the future timeline actually appealed to me. I really enjoy the scene in the tunnel where a van full of refugees, including Jade, is surrounded by lickers. The ensuing chaos was a pretty great display of how terrifying and deadly the lickers can be. The chase involving the giant spider was also pretty intense, and the brutality on display, especially the moment where the spider splits a man in half, was actually a bit shocking. The drama involving a small child infected by the T-virus dragged on a bit too long for my liking, however. We all know how it was going to end as soon as the bite was revealed, but it's a minor nitpick. Shout out to the Wesker family's chihuahua Pablo, seemingly named after OG Wesker actor Pablo Kuntz. Adult Jade and Fat Evil White Man have been captured by a third faction, the Brotherhood. How original. And Fat Evil White Man takes a moment to rant about SpongeBob. Amazing, fantastic, stupendous writing. In the past, Albert is working hard with his team to develop an antiviral solution for the T-virus while the countdown to Billy's turn ticks away. I'd say Lance Reddick's acting wasn't very convincing in this one scene, but in his defense, there's no good way to portray a man in his 50s having a hissy fit. We get a scene of young Jade and Billy walking through New Raccoon City as Jade points out the flaws of their neighbors. Hey, she has ass implants. He has hair plugs. Look, fake boobs. Oh, she just got her vag wallpapered. Charming. And yes, someone did get paid to write that. We then see Jade and Billy crash a makeshift skate park party. That's a thing, I guess. And we also watch Evelyn Marcus and her wife do goat yoga. Just like the games! Oh, and then Fat Evil White Man becomes a badass and pulls some Raid/John Wick shit, and a knockoff Dr. Salvador shows up, and... hell with it. Look, I tried to give each episode its own fair shake, but enough is enough. This series, if you can even call it that, doesn't deserve it. Look, this thing is deeply flawed from top to bottom, inside and out. Episode 1 was almost entertaining, aside from some plot armor and other major contrivances, if it were its own thing. But it isn't. This series injected just enough from the video games to make it unapproachable to the general audience, but also uses those references from the video game so poorly that it's laughably meaningless. Sincerely, truly meaningless. This is an honest question for those of you who genuinely enjoy this sort of thing. No judgment. What makes it enjoyable for you? From my perspective, it feels lazy, as if the show's crew is just trying to placate us. I'm talking about things like some random piece of human cannon fodder holding the Hydra shotgun from RE5 and RE6. Okay, it's there. So... An utterly pointless background character dressed exactly like RE4's Dr. Salvador and happens to use the same weapon of choice. A character happens to use the Red 9 handgun from RE4 and uses it to kill the utterly pointless background character dressed like RE4's Dr. Salvador, who then dies in a manner similar to one of Dr. Salvador's in-game death animations. What exactly was the point of that? Why are we supposed to enjoy it? Because it objectively makes no sense. Showrunner Andrew Dabb has said repeatedly that the games are canon to this Netflix series. They happened. What this means is Dr. Salvador was one of many enemies who Leon S. Kennedy fought during a rescue mission in 2004. And then, in the year 2036, some rando happened to dress up like him while also using a chainsaw, and coincidentally got put down by the same model of handgun that Leon had access to in RE4. Da fook? And let's not forget Lisa Trevor, arguably Resident Evil Remake's most iconic enemy. She pops up for an extremely brief appearance on a VHS tape, an almost blink-and-you-miss-it cameo. Why bother? Why use Lisa if you're not going to delve into her absolutely tragic backstory? Lisa Trevor was a young girl who had terrible things done to her, being turned into a science experiment and being left to live a tortured and monstrous existence. Having Wesker's daughters learn about Lisa should have been a heart-wrenching, impactful moment. Billy and Jade have just discovered their father's secret lab. They've learned that he has collected a large supply of their blood for unknown purposes, and then they find this VHS tape revealing Lisa Trevor for a few seconds. But imagine if they don't just find that tape. Imagine if they also find Lisa Trevor's file in that box of records from Raccoon City. Imagine these two young girls learning about someone just like them, who was forced to become a deadly creature by the same company their father works for. Imagine how much Billy, currently infected with the T-virus, might suddenly find herself identifying with this story, with this poor girl who had her humanity stripped from her. And imagine the utter emotional devastation both girls should feel having video evidence seemingly proving their father was in on this. Instead of doing that, it's a meaningless cameo, thoroughly outclassed by Welcome to Raccoon City's more tragically heroic version of the same creature. But you know what? Let's ignore all of that. Because the true tragedy of this series is that the actors all have this stain on their resume. Tamara Smart and Sienna Agudong handle the sisterly drama so damn well that I actually bought into their relationship as siblings, and felt that Jade and Billy Wesker loved each other. Tamara was saddled with the worst material, portraying a character who starts out with that very generic too cool for school mentality, but nonetheless shines in the role. Sienna, meanwhile, was stuck playing a character who becomes infected with the T-virus and subsequently bumbles around in a dreamlike haze or just whining about how her sister doesn't love her enough. Still, you can almost feel the emotional toll it's taking on Billy, and that's because of the actress's talents. As adult Jade, Ella Balinska seems to handle her role as well as anyone possibly could, but this character just happens to be unlikable, utterly idiotic, and so thoroughly covered in plot armor that there are zero stakes in this series. The quote-unquote humorous moments fell completely flat, but that's not Ella's fault. It's all in the writing and possibly the direction. And now for Lance Reddick. No, this man does not suit Albert Wesker in any way, shape, or form. But hot damn is he a joy to watch on screen, and he was given quite a lot to do. This character has so many layers. He's a well-meaning but sorely imperfect father, a deteriorating man with sinister secrets, a ruthless professional, a desperate scientist trying to save his daughter before the clock ticks down, and he pulls it off near flawlessly. All of it. To be perfectly honest, this dude deserves an award for what he did here. Not just for showcasing immense talents, but also for being forced to don a goofy leather combat suit and a terrible wig unfitting of a 59-year-old man. He shouldn't have been Albert Wesker. This character should never have been Albert Wesker. Lance Reddick should never have been forced to dress like a carbon fiber clown. He deserves a starring role in a show of much higher quality than this, and I sincerely hope this horribly executed Netflix bullshit doesn't hurt his career. I truly cannot go into more detail than this. This series doesn't deserve a comprehensive plot breakdown. It's broken. It can't stand alone, but neither does it slot into the video game franchise, no matter how much Andrew Dabb claims otherwise. Just don't bother. If you have to, seek out the liquor and spider scenes. I'm sure they'll be on YouTube at some point. Nothing else is redeemable here. I'm baffled, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye. Did you hate Resident Evil Village? Or maybe just the way it ended? Well, stay tuned for the simple idea that was too good for Capcom, and could have led to an amazing Resident Evil 9. There's going to be spoilers for Resident Evil 8 here, so if you haven't played it yet, go do that or watch a Let's Play first. You've been warned. Also note, as of this time, we know DLC is coming, but not what it's about. 2 weeks from now, I don't want a bunch of RE Karens telling me Resident Evil 8 Village Super Hyper Ultra Gold Edition invalidates my opinion, therefore I must stick my head in doo-doo. I haven't talked about Village much on my channel yet, if at all. Mostly because I found it to just be a big ol' nothing burger. The graphics were great, as is the case with all of these RE Engine games, along with the music, but everything else fell flat. Never cared for Ethan Winters, for example. Yeah, sure, he's got the whole blank slate everyman thing going on. But see, I don't like that. Maybe if they actually bothered to show me his face and have him emote once or twice, I'd care. But they didn't, so I don't. He's always just a nobody with a one-track mind. In RE7, he was on a mission to save his wife. Then that same domestic terrorist wife came in like a wrecking ball strapped with a chainsaw and, you know, they lost me. VR kicked major ass though. In RE8, he was on a mission to save his baby, and that baby was half domestic terrorist wrecking ball strapped with a chainsaw, so they lost me again. Plus no VR. Worst game ever. I'm mostly kidding, I think. But you know what? We're not even here to talk about moldy old Ethan and his horrible family. We're here to talk about Chris Redfield. Chris has not had an easy life. I mean, he doesn't even have a life, does he? Can you actually imagine this mountain of muscle going grocery shopping? Or waiting in line at the DMV? No, you cannot. That's because his life has been spent serving in the military and various organizations. He's never really been his own man, always putting his life in the hands of other people who call the shots. For most of the Resident Evil series, Chris may as well have been a Pokemon, always getting being tossed into battle, given an order, and expected to fight his way out. Except this poor guy doesn't even get a visit with Nurse Joy afterwards. Hashtag justice for Chris. But now he's struck out on his own, baby! Since he can't seem to find work for a place that isn't eventually taken over by bioterrorist maniacs, Chris finally has his own squad called Hound Wolf. Wait, really? Is that a typo? Okay then. Hound Wolf, a squad made up of only Chris's most trusted allies, like that guy, this dude, Broseph, and some random chick. Hold on. Seriously. What the actual fuck, Capcom? You gave yourselves this opportunity and this is what you did with it? Okay, let's back up. We were formally introduced to Hound Wolf at the tail end of RE8, at the beginning of an incredibly action-packed hype moment where Chris's actions throughout the story are finally explained, poorly, as he finally emerges from the shadows and becomes playable, having left the BSAA behind, joined by several hand-picked operatives, and they're a bunch of nobodies? Capcom, you done fucked up. This team should be the Avengers of the Resident Evil world, man. They try to make it seem like these characters know each other and have long histories together. But we, the player, who have followed the series for decades in some cases, don't know or even care who they are. Hell, immediately following RE8's release, the only excitement I saw about Hound Wolf on various message boards was speculation that the female member could be either Jill or Sheva, which was promptly stamped out thanks to the concept art. And you know what? Jill Valentine and Sheva Alomar should both be there. Both characters, who are fiercely loyal to Chris, have been missing in the RE timeline since RE5. Jill had been Chris's partner for a very long time. Sure, Wesker did some experiments on her that necessitated some time in quarantine, but Capcom are the ones controlling the story. They can bring her back at any time in any game they choose. There's lots of speculation among fans that Capcom has no interest in having a middle-aged female protagonist, and while I don't subscribe to that just yet, it's truly mind-boggling that they haven't featured her alongside Chris in RE7 and RE8. Otherwise, why bother reuniting the characters at the end of RE5? As for Sheva Alomar, we don't know as much about her. Her exclusion isn't much of a head-scratcher, as she isn't exactly beloved like Jill. A lot of the fanbase still hates the character due to the poor AI during gameplay. Some even see her as something Capcom forced into the story purely to offset the cries of racism. While I think she's thankfully becoming more appreciated over time, she's still not a fan favorite. But there's no denying the loyal bond she and Chris formed during RE5. Sheva was presented with a chance to save herself and leave Chris to go solo, but she refused, even after they both admitted to feeling expendable in the eyes of the BSAA. More than that, Sheva risked her life to help recover Jill and, most importantly, chose to sacrifice herself to stop Wesker. Luckily, Chris didn't let that happen, meaning she's still out there somewhere, just being her beautiful self. Now bring her back for me. Beyond those two shoo-ins, there's plenty of other characters who would fit into the Resident Evil Avengers. RE Avengers. Revengers! Ha! I'm sure nobody else has ever thought of that one. Right? As old as he may be, I'd like to think Barry Burton would happily take up some sort of support role. Hell, part of me would like him to have spent years honing the skills necessary to become the new Kendo. But ultimately, he may prefer full retirement at home with his family. At least until Natalix someday ruins things. Likewise, Rebecca Chambers could easily slot into a support role as well. As a former STARS medic and BSAA advisor, not to mention the fact she's something of a scientist herself, there's several ways she could be useful. Hell, I wouldn't complain about her becoming the team's Nurse Joy. There's also Claire, of course, though in recent years she's been shown to prefer a pacifist path, only taking up arms reluctantly and as a last resort. Would the BSAA seemingly going dark side be enough to have her join the team? Maybe. As a RE fan, it'd be amazing to see Chris and Claire kick ass side by side since they were mostly separated during CVX. With Carlos Oliveira being more popular than ever thanks to RE3 Remake, it may be a good idea to bring him back, albeit as a more mature soldier who has seen the world decline since his time as a mercenary. I can definitely see him working alongside Jill and Chris. Complication here, of course, is that Capcom made the brilliant decision to hire Jeff Shine to voice Carlos in RE3 Remake and Chris in RE8. Josh Stone is another character introduced in RE5 who could easily make a comeback. We know him as a highly skilled, good-natured BSAA agent and a mentor to Sheva, and he previously worked well with both Chris and Jill, so he'd fit right in. Like Chris and Carlos, he can also serve as a pilot when needed. And although a lot of you would like to, let's not forget about the BSAA agents introduced in Revelations. Parker, Grinder, and Jackass. I like Parker. He's cool. The other two can die in a fire. Finally, there's Leon. Leon has always seemed pretty happy to just stick with working directly for the President of the USA. What's more, he also works best as a sort of lone wolf. But let's do some speculation here. If the BSAA have truly started using bioweapons for their own benefit, it's unlikely that the US government isn't aware of that. Perhaps it would even be reasonable to assume it was done under the president's order. We don't really know who's in charge. If some corrupt politician sits in the White House now, maybe Mr. S. Kennedy doesn't feel much job security. Y'all know I'm not the biggest fan of Leon, but there's major potential here. With this iteration of Hound Wolf, I can imagine a Resident Evil 9 that switches perspectives often, but not in the clumsy yet ambitious way RE6 did it. This RE9 has lots of iconic characters to feature, but they all operate under one banner with a singular objective. And everyone ultimately answers to Chris, who in turn confides in Jill. But here's the thing about Chris. Being a leader has never gone well for him. How many times have we seen people who serve under him die? So now for Chris, having nobody above him to give out the orders should be a terrifying idea. If the orders are incompetent, or if a mission is planned without proper intel, that's on him. Not to mention the PTSD he already suffers from, an idea first introduced in RE5's marketing and then followed up in canon with Resident Evil 6. There's also the stark reality that without any government funding, their resources are extremely limited. They don't have unlimited access to the best weapons and infinite ammunition. Actually, come to think of it, I'm surprised they had what they had in RE8. Huh. Maybe they stole it all the day they left the BSA. You know what? I'm getting off topic here. This ain't a Resident Evil 9 video. It's a Hound Wolf video. And to wrap things up, I'm not fully opposed to unknown characters being a part of the team. Chris and the others would need all the help they can get. Besides, somebody has to be injured, killed, or otherwise maimed, right? Although my vote goes toward Grinder and Jackass being used as meat shields. In conclusion, the real friends are the Hound Wolf we met along the way. Or something. I'm baffled, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye. There's been one horrible secret that I've kept to myself. I have never beaten the original Resident Evil. Now, I was told earlier, unless I play as Chris, I'll be pussing out. But, yeah, screw that noise. I'm picking Jill. I kinda need Barry's help on this one, I think. At least for this first one. Gotta say, the tone and the atmosphere of this intro really holds up. You know, it's nice and ominous. Honestly, all of this is cool to me. I mean, like I said, I miss cheesy live-action scenes like this.
But strangely, most of the equipment was still there.
Chris has the stank face. What was that scream? Okay, ooh, controls are definitely a bit looser feeling than RE2. That's fine. I can dig it. I can dig it. Oh, I got the biggest smile on my face right now. I really should have played this a very long time ago. This has to be one of the most iconic, like, cutscenes in all of gaming. Oh, shit. Okay, is this like the remake? Will Barry save my ass from this zombie? Yes, he does. Alright, cool,
Barry?
Cool.
What is it?
It's a monster!
Let me take care of this.
Oh! Oh! OG Barry was a bit more thorough than Remake Barry, actually.
What is it? And Jill, here's a lockpick. It might be handy if you, the master of unlocking, take it with you.
Thanks. Maybe I'll need it.
Maybe the Master of Unlocking should carry her own lockpick. Kenneth from the Stars Bravo team. Now he's become a mere shadow of his former self. Damn. It's a burn on poor old Kenneth. Should probably equip my damn gun, too.
Hi.
Whoa. I love it. I love it. Let's see. I forgot there's no auto-aim. Unless he actually is just a corpse. Okay, I'm just gonna try to sneak around you. No! Bitch! Get off. I love the idea that she's in this situation. One of her teammates was just decapitated, and she just decides to play the piano on a whim. Ah, right. No auto-aim. Oh shit, there's two. Okay. You dead? Oh no! Die! No! No! Get off! Oh shit. You dead? Okay, now you're dead. You dead? I don't think you're dead. You're sliding. Oh! Ooh! Haha! See ya! Wouldn't want to be Oh, if you're trying to do the command I think you're trying to do one, then it's love you. Boy, I hope that volume is set well. Yeah. Ow.
Holy shit!
Mm-hmm.
What
have I done?
Yeah.
What have I done?
But just take a look at this. It's forest. Oh my god.
He really sounds all broken up.
It's awful.
You know, I think I still have the old Toy Biz Forest action figure from the 90s somewhere.
It looked.
Oh, I'm tremendously low on bullets. Oh no. If things are where I think they are, roughly, I'm gonna be trying to go to the greenhouse now. Ah! Oh, crap. Okay. Oh, gotta love that close-up of zombie ass. So far, so good. Oh, interesting. Didn't have to make a choice. No Jill sandwich line, though? Really? Why's that? I'll need a broken shotgun now. Oh, okay. Barry won't save you if you try to take the shotgun. Okay, it's good to know. It's really good to know. Ooh, armor key. Okay, I think I have a couple of doors in mind that'll open. I'm feeling good about this. Feeling good. It's a shame I won't get the Jill sandwich line, but I think I'll live.
NANI?
Now go ahead. Now it's unlocked, and they'll be reset. Run back through, get to the save room, drop off all my healing items. Bing bang boom. And fin fang foom.
Richard, what happened?
Oh, Jill, this house is dangerous. There are terrible demons. Ouch!
Ouch! As blood erupts from his shoulder.
It was a huge snake, and also poisonous.
Poisonous? Oh no. Richard, hold on.
There is serum. Oh no, I should have brought some with me.
No problem. I'll go and get it.
Thanks.
Oh my gosh. acting. I can't get, like, a little spurt of blood erupted from his shoulder, and he just goes, ouch. Don't worry, Tricky Dicky. I'll save you. Your life is in the hands of a buffoon. You should not be worried. Is this the serum? Yeah, it's the serum. I'm sure Richard will be fine. He'll be fine. I definitely did this fast enough. Time to take your medicine.
Here's the serum.
Jill, here's my radio. You should keep it.
No! Richard!
You weenie! What did I run and get the serum for then? Well, okay, ammo. At least he was good for something.
It's all in the reflexes.
Oh no! Oh no! No! My reflexes are shit!
This is Barbara's fault.
That was Barbara's fault. You right. I guess I'm not able to move the... Ooh, yep, okay, it is on the first try. Oh, crap. Go! Alright, that was still... Oh, hi. Yeah, everybody out there watching right now, just be sure to like and subscribe. Letting myself get too awful excited. Oh, no! Oh, shit! No! Oh, shit. Oh, shit. This was a mistake.
I meant to do that.
I did, you smartass. So I've... what, done? Newborn, infant... I did the thing! Hey! Go! Oh! Oh no! I've been betrayed! No! Oh, that's the damn door I was aiming for. Hey, buddy. Seen Jennifer Lopez lately? What about John Voight?
Hey, the Schwartz be with you.
Oh, shit. Oh, no. Oh, I'm screwed. Oh. You dead? You dead? Or are you alive? You leaving? You staying? He's staying. Oh, hell. Oh, run, Jill! Oh, you cheap bitch. Ah, it would help if you would actually hit something. Shoot him! Shoot him! Okay. Piece of cake.
Bollocks.
That's just rude. I nailed that and you know it. Can't even say that with a straight face. I just can't. So where are the blue orbs? Because I haven't seen any yet. Oh.
Am I poisoned? Give me the serum.
Wouldn't I still have it on me? Guess I don't. Barry didn't show up, so you have to... Oh, was Barry supposed to save me? The main reason I played as Jill was so Barry could save me at whatever points Barry could save me. I guess he's being a lazy asshole this time. Yes, I'll take the damn serum. I don't seem to have a needle, so I guess I'm just gonna chug it. Oh, no. Ah! Well, that's not what I wanted to... Okay. Oh no. Oh no. No. That was bound to happen. Let's be real. I guess I didn't kill you yet. Your death was not canon. No, just let me kill him. No. Oh, fuck all y'all. Oh, fuck all y'all. Damn it. Everybody saw that too. Bitch. Shit. Back up! Mind your business! That's all. Just mind your business. Oh, really? Ouch. Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, come on, son of a... Stop it. Stop it. Go. Run. 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 Must go faster. Oh, for fuck's sake. Dude, save. I need serum first, sir. Yeah, you get it, girl. Get that serum. I've literally seen a 12-year-old play this better than you. Well, his dad is Wesker. The fuck? Of course he did better. I wanna blame it on the lack of auto-aim. I do. I just suck. Damn, these dogs are whiny. Hi, doggy. Oh shit! The hell? The hell was that beep? The fuck is that? Radio? I don't... Oh! Oh!
This is Brad. Stars Alpha Team. Bravo Team. It doesn't matter.
Sadly, I don't think I would have figured that out on my own. Because in the remake, it just goes to a cutscene. You don't have to go to a radio command. Somebody needs to shoot that whiny dog. Hot damn. Oh shit! Oh no! Oh no! See, this is exactly what I mean. Well, that didn't do much of anything. I still can't believe Welcome to Raccoon City had multiple instances of a character using a lockpick. And Jill Valentine was in the movie, but Jill Valentine was not the one to do the lockpicking. What the hell? Ow! Oh shit! Dick! Now I know what the statue is for. I thought there would be a crate here. Ah, crap, I screwed up. Okay. Go back. I can't fucking see! No, I want... Damn it, Jill. Put your... Just fucking... No, push. Ah, shit, is this good enough? Fuck! Yeah, fuck! Fuck you! Fuck. Oh, it pushed me past the statue now. Oh no. There. Why do I keep unequipping my fucking gun? Voices are heard from the other side of the door. Been affected by T-virus differently. The sharks are shit, BB. Look! I understand the sharks in this one might be shit, but I also understand that I am also shit, if not shittier. I need to plan for the worst, okay? I just do. It's just how it is. Leave me alone. Stop it. Okay, now the question is, will Barry save my ass? Ouch. Nope, he's not gonna save me? Really? Well, what good is he then? He's done jack shit for me this run. Didn't bring any health either. I got real cocky. Thanks, Barry. You've been abso-fucking-lutely useless to me. But hey, you did hand me the grenade launcher I could have just as easily picked up myself. Like a three-headed... Oh, this is why I save before the sharks. Just in case. I can do this in 1 hour 38. What are you doing? Shut the fuck up! Oh, nice. I didn't call out the fact that they actually used like functional mirrors for this game. You don't see that like at all in games now. They'll like fog up the mirrors or have them be shattered and, you know, or covered up with some spray paint or some shit. Alright, let's get my ass kicked by a plant. I unequipped my fucking bazooka. Did I just miss? Oh. Well.
What the hell?
Oh, hey! Come on.
You saved me.
Yeah.
That was close.
What was that line delivery?
Don't mention it. What a monster. I can't believe... What the hell is this place anyway?
Barry's losing his shit.
Let's start searching separately.
Okay.
We've been searching separately. Even though I kinda missed all of those grenade launcher shots. Still proud of myself. Oh, who's this?
Wesker.
Jill, so you're safe.
That's what I was going to say. Where on earth have you been? You disappeared from the hall all of a sudden.
I'm sorry, but I have my reasons. Perhaps you guys have met them? It was all I could do to protect myself against those strange creatures.
Is that right?
I have been looking around for clues.
Okay.
Crap. Damn it. Now I'm in the shit. According to you, I'm always in the shit. What are you talking about? How am I supposed to distinguish now from any other moment when you're watching me play a game? By the way, if any of you guys in chat don't know, the voice actor for Wesker in this game, Pablo Kuntz, he has his own YouTube channel. And his son has his own YouTube channel too, where they do Resident Evil Let's Plays and stuff. Yeah, it's kind of neat to see the original voice actors like coming out and doing more stuff for the fans and with the fans. But oh yeah. Shit. Yeah. Oh fuck. Oh fuck. Fuck yourself. Ah, it's the wrong door. Wait. Ah, shit! I don't have the helmet key on me. No! Ow! Don't spank my ass without my consent. Ah, fuck! Why won't you just die? Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, bring it! Bitch. Oh, this shotgun shell situation is grim. Do I have the crank? I do not have the fucking crank. Damn it! Ow. That's what I get for being cocky. Just proud of myself in general. Let's see where there's the feckin' crank. Missed me! Shit, that ammo situation's just not good. It's just not good. Go for... Yeah, sure.
Yes, please. I'm a little nervous.
I understand.
Barry?
Damn, just instant. Woot.
That was too close.
Is that Jill?
Is that voice Enrico's?
Yeah? So, Barry and Jill together. The stars are doomed. Ha!
Ooh, poor Enrico.
Enrico!
Yeah, don't like turn around or anything. Too late. Oh, shit. Run! Run faster! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Open the door! Whoa! Oh no. Whoa! No, you should be dead! You should be dead. This is your cue to fall down. I call bullshit. Oh, fuck's sake. Yeah, I'll grab the crank in a second. Let's see. I'm gonna get the fucking crank, people. Holy shit, I'm taking inventory right now. I'm thinking of, like, because I have the bazooka and the rounds are kind of, like, you know, I think acid rounds should also be good against hunters. That's kind of what I was, well, I wasn't necessarily going to use the acid ones. Oh yeah, I got a bunch of explosive rounds. This in there for now.
It really pisses me off to no end.
Fuck's sake. Yes, I know it's pissing you off. And yes, I'm gonna come back and get the crank and the key. Just let me do what I'm gonna do real quick. For fuck's sake. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells. Come on. Oh shit. Fuck! I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know what
I meant to do that.
Yeah, sure. Let me get my inventory sorted again. Come on. Come on. Come at me. Yeah, you my bitch. Bitch.
Oh, Jill. What good timing.
Is that Jill?
Is that voice Enrico's?
Yeah?
Oh no! Fuck!
Is that...
Yeah? Huh.
Oh shit! Help me! No! Oh shit! Oh, it's this time now. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Oh, shit! Oh, no! Oh, no! What the? Why are there stakes now? What? What, you don't think I'm gonna reach the tyrant tonight? How dare you? You're absolutely right. I'm gonna kill this guy just because I feel like killing something. Ah, you bitch! Just because I killed your friend. Shotgun shells or something like that. Ah, it's a naked one. No, terms of service. Oh, shit. Oh, no! Oh, yeah, sure. Line up. Take your lick. Not gonna get to the chocolatey center of this Tootsie Pop. That's for damn sure. Oh, that's kind of cool. I actually see the hands. Ooh, someone went to a lot of effort on this. Went a little overboard with the umbrella logos, though. On the keyboard, on the bottom of the monitor, on the top of the monitor, on the tower. Oh, and the hand is even tapping keys. It's not moving at all, but it's still tapping keys. Tree. I could have tried tree like 10 more times, but, you know, the Cerberus. Tyrant. Bioweapon Research Institute R&D staff. Look at Neil Patrick Harris on the far left. James Franco in the middle there. Ooh, there's stuff here. Ooh, there's stuff. Oh, fuck. Oh, no. I stepped on a button. Oh, it's all gone so horribly wrong. I'm not poisoned, though. Don't. Ha ha! Look at that. There's an air shaft. Will you enter it? Yes, I will. Oh, that's a pleasant sound. Oh, no. Oh, shit! Ah! Oh, that's a corner. Oh, no! Oh, shit! Oh, yeah! Suck it, bitches! Oh, shit! Oh, no. Oh, shit. Oh, no. Ah! Okay, aim. Turn. Get off the ceiling, dickhead! Oh, I so wish there was auto-aim.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh. Hey, Mark, what's up, buddy? Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Chimera? Where'd the Chimera go? The hell? Ah! Shit! Oh, they're both still alive! Oh, fuck me. Damn it. Ah, the damn grenade arc. Ah! I need, oh, good. Another one of these. Hi. Bye. Oh, shit! Oh! Oh, no. Get off! Bastards. They're like asshole bug monkeys or something. Damn, you were quick on the draw with that one.
Jill? Is that you, Jill?
Oh, Chris, you're alive!
Of course. Damn it, we're in quite a predicament, Jill.
I know, Chris. Anyway, I have to open this room. It doesn't work. Well, Chris, I'll be sure to come back and help you soon. Will you wait here?
Thanks. I'll be waiting here for you.
Wesker?
You did a fine job, Barry.
Just as I thought.
You didn't think
stay
shit.
Away from Barry, Jill. I hear that his wife and 2 daughters will be in danger if he doesn't do everything I tell him to.
You are so cruel.
Barry, go up on the ground and wait there.
Barry!
Aww.
Barry's such a fool. He'll be under the control of Umbrella forever. Better yet, I'm going to show you the tyrant. Oh!
Ooh.
Barry!
Sorry, Jill.
How is your family?
I was listening to what you and Wesker were talking about. I wish I realized it earlier. I thought it must have something to do with Umbrella, you know. So it's all been masterminded by him.
I like how Barry didn't see it at first somehow.
Tyrant is not completely developed.
That must be the computer for monitoring this creature.
Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
Nice. Nice one, Hee-chan. Holy shit. I don't know what's worse, the dialogue or the voice acting. Now, Barry, was that necessary? What the fuck, man?
Damn you!
You really boomered this one. Ooh.
It can't control what it does.
Oh, shit. Ow! I didn't even get to move, dickhead! Ow! Ow! Bitch, let me fucking move! Holy shit! Damn! Watch the scene again and notice that it looks like Barry, too, has been deprived of auto-aim.
Damn you!
You're right! I didn't notice that the first time. His head even turned. Like, oh shit, he's over there. Damn it! Fuck you, dude! I broke him! I broke him! He's stuck! He doesn't know what to do with himself because he missed the guaranteed hit. Ah, he broke free. I want to smack that ass before I leave. Don't forget Chris. Oh, that would suck if I forgot Chris. Oh, fuck! Shit! Son of a bitch, that just scared the hell out of me! Holy hell! Oh, no. Ah, damn bug monkeys. No! No! Let's go, nerd. We're getting out of here.
Oh, Jill!
Oh, Chris! So you're okay?
Yeah, you too. What happened to Wesker?
Oh! Let's talk about it later. Let's get out of here.
I love the casual wave she gives him when she enters the room. Where you going?
Let's go.
You don't even have a weapon. Watch out for the bug monkeys. Now he's doing the casual wave. Alright, boys, stop staring at my ass. I know it's juicy. Why is Barry humping Chris? He's my old partner, you know. Alright, Brad, you're taking up precious seconds here. Hurry the feck up. Oh no, he's getting revenge for Jill calling him underdeveloped. Come on. That's actually helping. Oh, I was... Oh no! Damn it, Brad! Yes!
Hey, Jill! Kill that monster! You're our Amazon, Jill!
Fuck you, Brad! No! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! No heals. No heals. There's no way I'm gonna... Oh fuck, guys. I have to be able to aim, turn, and then fire. What are the odds? Oh, fuck yeah! You dickless wonder! Oh, shit, that was close. His smoking bones just let out a Wilhelm scream. Oh, my heart was pumping on that one. Holy shit. But, okay, take it easy on that stick, Brad.
He's finally matched his meat. You really licked his ass.
Yeah, I licked his ass. What? Huh? I didn't think you would have made it in time. Yeah, no shit. Woo! And now kiss. Oh, that was so much fun. That's it. I'm baffled, and hope to see you guys next time. Bye. As sick as I may be of Resident Evil now, there are some older curiosities that still pique my interest. One of them just happens to be the lost RE4 sequel I assumed I'd never get to play, until now. Let me take you through it.
7 years after the Raccoon City tragedy, Harvardville, a city in the American Midwest, has become the victim of a terrorist attack involving biological weaponry. The attack occurred at Harvardville Airport. People at the airport quickly succumbed to a violently infectious virus, turning them into walking vessels of disease. Unmentionable terrors roam the corridors. Something aboard Flight N538GA caused it to crash right into the terminal. The number of fatalities is expected to be high. A secret government organization dispatches its top agent, Leon S. Kennedy, to the scene. His mission: to rescue a group of vital survivors trapped in the heart of the airport before the infection spreads further. Their lives are in his hands.
Because of course Leon's gonna drop in like he's friggin' Batman. We get the first of many calls from Hunnigan where she reminds him he's there to rescue Senator Ron Davis because this Leon apparently took a severe blow to the head recently and his short-term memory is kinda riding the struggle bus right now. So much so that 2.2 seconds after Leon discovers a ladder, Hunnigan has to call and tell him, "Hey Leon, you found a ladder." If you've ever played Mega Man Legends and suffered through Roll's constant hand-holding, you've felt this pain before.
Wait a second. There should be a Reaver bot around there somewhere. Turn right there. Can you see a door nearby? Where are you going, Mega Man? That's not the right way. Be careful, Mega Man. It looks like you've got you surrounded. Mega Man, are you all right? Do you see a door? That should be the way out. Watch out, there's something right in front of you.
Brought to you by Capcom. And after Leon drops into the main portion of the airport, she then calls again just to point out he's a stupid idiot for deploying with practically no supplies, but hey, it's okay, cause there's always lots of guns and bullets left all around American airports. And you know what? That tracks. It's just as logical as a secret mold man or the Voltron Fly Sisters. After unnecessarily diving headfirst through a glass window, gee, can't imagine why his brain don't work so good.
I ain't got a good brain.
We encounter our first zombies. Hunnigan reminds Leon to aim for the head because he's definitely never done any of this before, and Mr. S. Kennedy finally gets to do what he does best. He then cranks his way closer to the VIP lounge, fights zombos as he goes, but he's gonna need a password to get in. He has to rendezvous with the Special Forces squad who has it because Hunnigan is the jealous type and won't let him call anyone else on the radio but her. So off he goes, merrily causing explosions to lay waste to an undead duo, but the thing about indoor explosions is they just may destabilize the building, especially when this one already had a whole ass plane crash into it. Afterward, Hunnigan tells him about a team of Special Forces operatives who entered the airport and immediately started plundering the place for loot because they all apparently dreamed of becoming weapons and luggage peddlers. And conveniently we meet one of them in the very next room. A thick-thighed, noodle-armed bag of polygons vaguely shaped like a human lump, aka a merchant. Not the merchant. That guy is a national treasure.
Thank you.
Nah, this schmuck is just a whack-ass Temu knockoff. But hey, he sells guns, first aid sprays, and bigger inventories, so he's not all bad. So Leon supports his local illegal business owner and moves on in time to greet all the new arrivals.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
By now, Leon's tired of all these monkey-fighting zombies on this Monday to Friday plane, so he hurries through to get to the other side of the airport. Shout out to the absolute legend who stayed in his seat scribbling like a madman while all the other passengers were eaten or turned, while managing to write absolutely nothing of value. After narrowly avoiding a stupid death like you'd see in a bad Final Destination movie.
Oh no.
Leon finally meets one of the Special Forces operatives who knows absolutely nothing because he's a coward who abandoned his team and locked them downstairs. But he gives Leon a shotgun, so he's pretty cool overall. Subscribe for more like this. Leon heads to the elaborate maze of underground tunnels, in case you forgot this is a Resident Evil game, and he's quite happily mowing down mutant traffic cones when holy... Was that? Nah, couldn't be. A few minutes later, Leon rescues James Rolfe.
This game is my nightmare.
And suddenly reunites with his old friend Claire Redfield. Oh, God, Claire, I warned you not to use Bruce Jenner's plastic surgeon, damn it! So now Leon's just hanging out in the VIP lounge with the senator and a few other randos when someone starts beating on the door begging for help. A theoretically tense scene plays out where everyone's debating whether or not to let him in, and they do, but he's too injured to tell them what his vital information is. Claire was gonna follow Leon down to the infirmary to get some supplies, but he tells her no because she's been pretty useless since becoming a pacifist in a horror series. So he heads downstairs and runs headfirst into a proto-tyrant boss fight. But since Rebecca already soloed this thing before, it dies like a chump. And Leon heals the soldier, and his big revelation is that there's multiple planes full of zombies ready to take off, seemingly to spread the infection all around the world. So we board one, managing to depressurize the cabin and disable its Skynet autopilot, and are attacked by the CVX plane tyrant on, well, another plane. You know, you should really broaden your horizons. Maybe try a cruise ship next time. Oh, you're dead. Without enough time left to individually disable every plane, Hunnigan instead suggests blowing up the control tower to shut them all down at once. Frankly, she could have said that to begin with. That poor tyrant's blood is on her hands now. On the way, Leon is attacked by an entirely separate super tyrant, and after battling him in the baggage handling arena, like all airports have, we're finally able to suck the bastard into a giant jet engine.
Nice.
The cavalry finally arrives, giving Leon and Claire the chance to very slowly escape with all the other survivors. And Leon gets one last phone call with Hunnigan. The end. So I still remember the first time I saw this game advertised on a little slip of paper that came with my Degeneration DVD, and I was always curious about it. Having now had the chance to play it, I'm glad I did. You should have immediately noticed the gameplay looks quite a bit like the OG RE4, and it's definitely based on that setup, but nowhere near as smooth. And I mean, come on, the game was made for cell phones that looked like this, so what can you really expect? The biggest difference is that you can't transition from movement to aiming smoothly. There's a button to transition to aiming mode, and a different button cancels you out of it. The knife is handled the same way. It didn't take long to adjust to, maybe 10 minutes at most, but it still feels clunky. This isn't helped by the fact that the aiming mode button is the same one that also opens doors and picks up items, which screwed me over once or twice, but nothing too bad. Aiming mode actually has a nifty feature where you can dodge slightly in a chosen direction, and while it wasn't all that useful, it's still a great touch. The game is flawed, but playable. I'm actually kind of impressed by how well they mimicked RE4's gameplay on old Nokia phones. The thing of it is, this game was supposed to help save the N-Gage platform. The actual N-Gage systems were both colossal failures, so by this time the brand had risen like a crumbly, bumbling zombie as a digital storefront for Nokia phones. And while I had fun, let's just say it wasn't quite enough to save N-Gage. Everything besides the gameplay is... well, they tried, I guess. The graphics get the point across, you can tell what everything is supposed to be, but that's the only real compliment they can be given. Aside from Leon, every character model looks worse than those seen in the original 1996 Resident Evil. I have no idea how Nokia hardware compared to the PS1 or N64. I'm not a tech specs guy. I just kinda use my eyes for comparisons. And my eyes say that this is an ugly game, which is especially highlighted if you compare Degeneration Claire to RE2 Claire.
Buzz, your girlfriend. Woof.
But the default zombies do come in a pretty good variety of skins, so maybe they took a quantity over quality approach for this one. And there's a few different enemy types to fight. There's basic shambling zombies, zombies that occasionally sprint and grab you, ones that kinda lazily hang around and spit acid sometimes, the always dependable doggies, and then 3 flavors of tyrants for the bosses. And their inclusion here is pretty random, but it was fun seeing these tyrants show up. You know, in a superficial member berries kind of way. As astute Resident Evil fans may have noticed by now, though, this game doesn't have much to do with the movie it's based on. Sure, Leon arrives at the airport to rescue the senator and runs into Claire, just like the movie, but that's pretty much it. The movie's villain does not exist in the game, and the source of the infection is never explained either. Hell, 2 of the movie's most prominent characters are only mentioned once at the very beginning and never again. Maybe this was done intentionally to avoid spoilers, or maybe Capcom gave them an unfinished draft of the movie's script to work on. I don't know. The airport does make for a lame setting, though. You'll be seeing the same gray textures in every room, as you can see in my footage. In any case, if you were to ask me if the N-Gage sequel to Resident Evil 4 is worth playing, I'd actually say yeah. Particularly if you just happen to love that original RE4. It plays a lot like you might expect a PS1-style remake to play, and you can buy and upgrade weapons you'll recognize from the merchant like the Punisher, Riot Gun, and TMP. You even unlock a watered-down version of Mercenaries after beating the game, though you can only play as Leon and there's 2 levels to choose from. My first playthrough of Degeneration only took about an hour and 40 minutes, so it's not a big time investment. I had enough fun with it that I did a New Game Plus run with all my weapons fully upgraded, playing all the way through a second time. Will I ever play it again? Probably not, but it was worth it. Just maybe play on hard mode if you want a challenge. Now here's the thing, the N-Gage storefront was basically mercy-killed by the monster that was the Apple App Store, so Degeneration didn't remain an N-Gage exclusive. An iOS port was eventually developed. Now I can't play that version myself, but just by looking at it you can see that it objectively looks better than the original N-Gage release. Enemies and other NPCs actually resemble humans for one thing, with more complex 3D models and much higher quality textures. The environment on iOS is also a lot more visually interesting, with more varied textures and improved lighting that helps distinguish one area from another. And while I can't feel how it plays, just looking at the footage makes me feel kinda... Admittedly, what always made me curious about Degeneration was the rough and pointy aesthetic that reminded me of my favorite console generation. Once those rough edges are smoothed out, subjectively it loses the charm to me and I just kinda lose interest. I played the version I wanted, and I'm happy enough with the time I spent on it. You'll have to decide for yourself if you're gonna check it out. But that's all I got for you guys today. I'm baffled, and I hope to see you next time. Bye. This is where I'd list my wonderful patrons. If I had any. You know, it's been a couple of years now since I first watched Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. Does it hold up, or is it better off forgotten? Let's find out together. We opened with a slow, creepy rendition of a kid's nursery rhyme because it was cool when Dead Space did it, and untalented hacks are still copying it 15 years later. Young Claire Redfield wakes up to see the shriveled husk of Resident Evil's Dignity staring forlornly from the corner, and it's such a pitiful creature that she's not even scared. Her older brother Chris aggressively insists she saw nothing, but Claire gets up and wanders the halls of the Raccoon City orphanage anyway, since even a kid knows this movie won't be scary in the slightest. No matter how much time director Johannes Roberts wastes by zooming in pointlessly on old toys. Claire finds the creature in a play tent, and since this chick just ain't right, tries to befriend it, and we learn its name is, or was, Lisa Trevor. Keep in mind this thing literally wears a mask made from human flesh, and probably stinks worse than a Wendy's bathroom stall. Claire is interrupted by Dr. William Birkin, while Lisa apparently pulls a ninja vanishing act, and she's about to get in trouble until Chris swoops in with a cover story saying Claire has just been sleepwalking since their parents died. Later that night, Claire receives a thoughtful gift from her new friend, and also a lesson on why you shouldn't talk to strangers wearing the skin of other strangers. Adult Claire wakes up from her flashback nightmare riding in a truck with the only accurately adapted thing from the games, as well as the most annoyingly written and terribly acted character ever committed to film. And the Flash exists. This trucker just spews exposition at us, first by asking Claire why she's going back to Raccoon City, and then just proceeds to tell us her plans and motivations himself as if they've already had that conversation before. And I just gotta ask, for what possible reason was it written this way? It's so much clunkier and unnatural than just having them converse like normal people. And he just doesn't stop talking, at least until he splatters somebody over the grill of his truck. If only that were me, I still got the rest of the movie to get through. She's as dead as Jussie Smollett's career, but gets back up and limps away, completely ignoring the two very loud and unaware humans, because that's totally how zombies behave in Resident Evil. So Claire gets dropped off in Raccoon City, and we see this bit of text pop up to give context to things, and again, it just feels clunky to shove this here. Either put this at the very beginning, which still isn't ideal, but at least it wouldn't pull you out of the movie after it's already started, or maybe just let some of the characters discuss the current state of the city in a natural way. And trust me, Welcome to Raccoon City has plenty of crap dialogue that could and should have been replaced with something that's at least informative while also being relevant to the characters' lives. But nah, let's waste screen time having Wesker balance ketchup on Leon's head, cause that's funny. I'll say this though, at least Raccoon City is portrayed here as a relatively small Midwest town again, and not some kind of bustling metropolis full of skyscrapers like other versions have been. Leon wakes up hungover in a hotel and heads to a local diner where he falls back to sleep, unaware that his co-workers at the RPD are using him as their entertainment. Albert Wesker balances the aforementioned ketchup bottle on his head and dares Jill, dumb wildcard Valentine, to shoot it off his head.
$10 says you can't shoot that off from here.
That's easy.
Whoa. With this, Valentine.
Okay, and truthfully, come on. I mean, nobody wants a wild card, okay? It doesn't make any sense. We don't want a maniac in our group, but there's no benefit to it.
But see, it's funny because he meant with a dart gun, but she was gonna use her real gun. Isn't that hilarious? Subscribe for more like this. Honestly, I would have been more amused if they had skipped that bit and cut directly to what she does next.
20. Says I could knock the bottle without even looking.
But even so, this entire scene is wildly out of character for everyone. To get things out of the way, this Wesker is shown to be a doofy loser townie who's just looking for a way out of town with no previous ties to Umbrella. This Jill is written to be unhinged and irresponsible from what we see of her, and Richard Aiken from the games is frankly a good-natured, selfless hero who, yes, dies pretty early on, but this movie version is just kinda there in the periphery. And there's not much that can be said about him, other than the fact he's a member of Alpha Team here instead of Bravo. We don't know where Barry is. Oh yes we do. He was too good for this movie and therefore doesn't exist. I'll get back to Leon in a minute. Enrico Marini and Kevin Dooley walk in looking like a couple of background NPCs, coming across like basic beat cops even though Enrico should be vice captain of STARS, while Kevin is Bravo's pilot. Remember, STARS were never meant to be simple cops or even SWAT. They're a paramilitary group who operate out of the RPD. Though you'd never make that assumption just by watching this. Kevin basically exists here just to tell us this lame Leon's backstory.
I heard that you shot your partner in the ass during training, is that true? And that your daddy, some big shot in the force, and he had to bail you out?
And as if that wild destruction of a fan-favorite character's backstory isn't enough, Johannes Roberts thought fit to follow it up with this brilliant gem.
Now, Leon S. Kennedy. What's the S stand for, stupid?
It's funny, because Johannes Roberts claimed over and over again to be a fan, repeating that this movie was being made by a fan for fans. But when you watch and hear this, it sounds more like he has nothing but disdain for the brand. I mean, seriously, I'm not even a fan of a lot of things they did with Leon after RE2 and who the character became. But if I were writing this, that wouldn't affect my ability to write an adaptation respectfully and with reverence for the source material. Why do this? Who does it serve? Welcome to Raccoon City crams the stories of the first two games together so the majority of the iconic characters could all be included, but I really fail to see what the point is when they are utterly unrecognizable aside from maybe the color of their outfits. You're pleasing nobody with this kind of writing and bad casting. So Enrico and Kevin go away to be cannon fodder at the Spencer mansion, and Stars leave for the police station, with Jill stopping for a moment to talk to Leon, giving us perhaps the only moment where she feels anything like her OG personality.
Pay us no mind, we're, nice people once you get to know us.
Leon lingers a little longer, speaking to the waitress whose eye suddenly starts to bleed. Claire breaks into her brother's house, eats his pizza, and makes fun of his failing love life.
Still pining after Jill, I see. Never gonna happen, bro.
Then, for some reason, she puts on his old football helmet while creeping around until finding a photo of Chris and Birkin, which I think we're supposed to assume upsets her, judging by the low droning music that plays, but you really wouldn't know it by her empty, lifeless stare. Chris comes downstairs to see the strange sight of his adult, long-lost sister, who apparently ran away from Raccoon City years ago and left him behind, standing menacingly in the dark wearing his high school football helmet. And the logical reaction is to instantly start going on and on about how Birkin and his family are so important to him, and that he and Umbrella helped Chris through school and the police academy. And this little exchange sums up Chris and Claire's relationship here.
Missed Raccoon City so much you had to come pay me a visit?
Yeah, I fucking love Raccoon City. Go you bandits.
You're an asshole.
The choice to make Claire so antagonistic toward Chris is especially bizarre. Lest we forget, her motivation in both RE2 and CVX were to find him because he disappeared suddenly from her point of view. It's well established, at least until the train wreck that was Death Island, that Chris and Claire care about each other. To my knowledge, what isn't well established is their backstory. Their early history has been left pretty blank. So why on earth would Johannes Roberts choose to take away from their relationship instead of adding to it by filling in some of those blanks? Why make the Redfields snap at each other with cruel remarks? And when it comes to Chris, I guess technically he comes out of this movie feeling the most like his original counterpart, but it seems weird to me that he's so connected to Birkin and Umbrella here, while freaking Wesker has no ties to them at all, which basically throws out his entire established and, frankly, important backstory. Why, Johannes Roberts? Claire pulls out a VHS tape. This is the 90s, remember? And you know what? This is still my favorite line in the entire movie.
Look, okay, so I've been talking to this guy in a chat room.
What's a chat room?
The tape is from a reporter named Ben Bertolucci, who says Raccoon City's water supply has been poisoned, that Umbrella planned on leaving the town to die, but there's been an internal incident along the lines of Chernobyl. Ben went missing after sharing this tape. Chris believes none of it because remember, from his point of view, Umbrella has been pretty altruistic and he just leaves to go to work. Quick recap. Ben said that the Umbrella accident happened a couple of days ago, as of the time he was recording. He then had to send off that tape to his internet friend Claire. The tape took however long to get to her, let's assume at least 2 or 3 days. She watched the tape and then hitchhiked from wherever she was to get to Raccoon City. Let's be very generous here and assume she lived relatively close, only taking about 24 hours to get there. So we just learned that this accident happened, but it actually occurred nearly a week prior at this point, if not longer. But why then do we see Birkin, who is a very big deal inside Umbrella, just now getting a call that there was an accident, as if it only just happened? And Raccoon City's emergency sirens also start blaring at that exact moment while most of the city experiences a blackout. Does that make sense as it's being presented? Claire gets attacked by a half-zombified crackhead Karen and steals Chris's motorcycle. At the RPD, we're treated to more inane dialogue that these characters would never say, with the only mildly amusing bit being this.
What would the worst way to die be? To be swallowed whole by a snake or eaten alive by a great white shark?
Mostly because she says it in front of Richard, and those are 2 ways he can die in the games. Otherwise, I'm pretty checked out. Police Chief Brian Irons calls a meeting with everyone, or mostly everyone.
You said everyone into the briefing room, so here I am.
I didn't mean you, you moron. Not you, Leon, everyone else.
And then he says this.
Oswald Spencer was the creator of the Umbrella Corporation. Oswald Spencer.
Yeah, by this time it's no surprise the script got the name of maybe the most important person to the entire franchise's premise wrong. Good work. Stars are told to go to the Spencer Mansion because Bravo Team went missing there. You know, Bravo Team, aka these two putzes and nobody else. Boy, that'd make a hypothetical prequel movie based on RE0 kinda tough to do, huh? Wesker's beeper gets a mysterious message and he finds a PDA in his locker after. The truck driver from earlier shows back up, freshly zombified, crashing his rig in front of the RPD, at which point this nonsense happens. Man, that was the most calm and coordinated zombie I've ever seen. Good thing Irons saved Leon, because all Resident Evil fans know Brian Irons is a fine, upstanding, heroic individual, and definitely doesn't own a torture dungeon. He also resigns immediately and clocks out because f*** that noise. Alpha Team flies over the Arclay Forest, spotting Putz Team's vehicle overturned. They land and check it out, finding nothing but a zombie crow.
What is wrong with this? Really?
What?
Someone should confiscate that.
Having somebody making wild decisions that make no sense, that benefits nobody.
They wander over to the nearby Spencer Mansion, stepping into a pretty accurately recreated but somewhat scaled down version of the entrance hall. But don't get too excited. They split up. Richard and Chris pretty quickly run into zombies, which Richard doesn't survive. Jill and Wesker find the piano puzzle, and Wesker cheats by using a strategy guide, opening up the secret entrance to a lab below. Then Brad Vickers crashes their helicopter into the mansion after being attacked. Irons tries to leave the city, but is stopped by an Umbrella squad who start opening fire on civilians to keep things contained. Irons flees back to the RPD, but finds the truck driver's dog now mutated into a big piece of CGI dookie that nearly kills him, until Claire swoops in for the save. Leon finds Ben Bertolucci held in a secret jail under the RPD armory.
Who the fuck are you?
This sickly nerd, who is locked up behind bars, manages to steal Leon's gun.
Jesus Christ. Hey, whoa, whoa! That's my gun.
And then he dies. Claire gets big sad. Wesker and Jill scrape themselves up off the floor, and he tells her that he's been paid off by a third party to dig up information on Umbrella inside that secret lab he just opened up. He's been desperate to get away from Raccoon City, and his only motivation is to leave. Jill gets very upset by that idea because she's been hardcore simping after him this whole time. So they part ways. She rescues Chris, who's been playing Horde mode on his own for quite a while. And although the movie doesn't portray it this way, Jill shows her vindictive side by telling him that Wesker led them there purposefully to get them killed, which is very much not what he said. So either she made it up, or Jill became conscious of the multiverse and learned about the original Wesker's plan from the video game. Or this movie was written by a hack. And that's the RE1 portion of the movie over. The RPD is overrun, and so that group abandons ship and run to the orphanage, which causes Claire to have a flashback to a night when Birkin tried to separate her from Chris for nefarious reasons, causing her to run away. Irons gets sucked up and chomped on by a licker, sealing the deal on both a wasted character and an underutilized actor. Using Brian Irons as a tightly wound but mostly average guy instead of the insidious wolf in sheep's clothing was utterly pointless. Frankly, this version of Irons should have just been replaced by Marvin Branagh as the authority figure. Set up early on that the chief has disappeared, leaving the remaining police in shambles, with Marvin stepping up to provide order. It's a character that fits this role better, and it brings diversity to the cast without needing to change established characters. But that's not what you did, is it? So the licker attacks, but it's okay because ninja assassin Lisa Trevor tags in for a very brief fight to the death, killing the coolest monster in this movie just as quickly as it appeared. Lisa leads them to a secret elevator but stays behind. Underground they find a stockpile of Umbrella files all about how they used orphans for experiments, and Claire fires up a projector to play a shockingly faithful recreation of a Code Veronica X cutscene, albeit ruined needlessly by inserting Birkin into the background, pretending to write notes on his clipboard while grinning like a moron. Wesker confronts Birkin and his family inside his lab, trying to steal the G-Virus. This doesn't go well. Birkin shoots Wesker, Wesker shoots Birkin, Annette tries to shoot Wesker, Wesker shoots Annette, Sherry wants to shoot Wesker, Jill does shoot Wesker, and then Birkin shoots himself up with the G-Virus. That was actually kind of fun. Good job. Wesker suddenly knows quite a lot of information, like the fact Raccoon City is about to be blown up, but there's an escape train ready to go. And then he apologizes profusely to everyone, especially Chris and Jill, before dying. Kinda throws away Wesker's grudges for future plotlines, doesn't it? So Birkin mutates and targets Chris while the others head for the train, sprouting derpy Dumbo ears because that'll make your villain more intimidating. But then Birkin starts shouting playground insults at Chris that are all pretty pathetic, but this one is my absolute favorite for how childish it sounds.
How could you be so dumb when your sister's so smart?
Claire saves Chris and everyone reunites on the getaway train. Birkin's new transformation, which would have looked pretty cool if not for this, shows up and Leon blows everyone up with a rocket launcher. The end. Okay, not really. They all survive and Raccoon City goes boom. Wesker is brought back to life by his mysterious boss, Ada Wong, who immediately forces him to cosplay as Ray Charles. The end. That was garbage. Irredeemable, forgettable garbage. The first time I reviewed this, I think I was pretty light on it. It wasn't great, but I thought it was watchable. Maybe something I could turn on as background noise and pay it some attention once in a while. But no. It's the closest we've gotten to something that resembles a Resident Evil movie. But why should that be a consolation prize we hand it by default? Slop is slop. Doesn't matter if it's been sculpted to look kinda sorta like a steak. It's a shit adaptation given a small budget to be made by someone whose skill set is barely above amateur level. The lighting is generally fine and the camera is pointed in the right direction. Well, most of the time, though Johannes Roberts did forget to film an angle to show off a big Easter egg he had made for the lab scene. Aw, bless your heart. That's just about the last compliments I can give it. Welcome to Raccoon City is bland, pointless, and just as disrespectful to most of the franchise's iconic characters as Anderson was. The difference being, Anderson's movies are so dumb that you can have fun laughing at them with some friends, while watching an army of clones of his raspy-voiced wife defy gravity in very strange ways. Welcome to Raccoon City just kinda leaves me bored and empty, as if I just stared at TV static for 2 hours straight. Do I think it's worth watching? No. I watched it this time specifically for the purposes of doing this video and making a commentary track for Patreon, and now I'll never watch this thing ever again. Some people blame the quality of this movie on the choice to mash the stories of RE1 and 2 together, but the thing is, that could have worked. Having them occur on the same night was the mistake. Instead, Welcome to Raccoon City should have primarily began as an RE2 adaptation. Claire arrives searching for Chris, gets caught up in the outbreak, and meets Leon, who takes her to the RPD. While going through some combination of the A and B scenarios, kinda like Darkside Chronicles, Leon and Claire periodically find notes or get information from other characters like Marvin or Irons, which would each transition to flashbacks of Chris and Jill at the Spencer Mansion, hitting the biggest plot points of RE1 sporadically for a couple of minutes at a time. Bravo team going missing, Alpha entering the mansion, encounter with the first zombie, uncovering Umbrella's wrongdoings, Barry's betrayal, Wesker's reveal. Claire would finally find Chris's diary, wherein he mentions heading to Europe, setting up Code Veronica for the second movie. It's not rocket science, it could be done, and more importantly, it could be done with respect to the source material, but it never will be. I don't see us ever getting a faithful RE movie. Not as long as Constantine Films holds the movie rights, and as long as they keep shitting out low-budget movies like this one, they'll have those rights forever. Rumors say the next one will be based on RE0 and will somehow be a prequel to Welcome to Raccoon City, even though I don't see how it'd be possible to make that work now. But that's a problem for the future. That's all I got for you guys today. I'm baffled, and hope to see you next time. Bye!
Thank you!
What if I told you the man known as the father of Resident Evil wasn't actually Shinji Mikami, and that countless developers were stepped on and banished to obscurity solely so Capcom could pretend they had their own in-house superstar wonderkind to rival Konami and Hideo Kojima? This video just may leave you wondering if Mikami isn't what he was hyped up to be, and if he fired the man most responsible for the story and characters you love, all out of jealousy. Sit down and settle in. There are a lot of misconceptions about the development of the original Resident Evil. It's commonly said that it started as a remake of the Famicom horror game Sweet Home. But it was never meant to be a remake, nor an actual sequel. Capcom's 3D horror game was only ever meant to take inspiration from Sweet Home, initially intending to copy its party mechanics as well as other features usually seen in JRPGs. For much more info on this original concept, including a translation of the design document and in-depth descriptions and diagrams of the gameplay, check out the full article from projectumbrella.net. They're one of the sources I've used for this video, but I'll mostly be focusing on how the story and characters were developed. The game we would come to know as Resident Evil started to come together gradually starting from the beginning of 1994. The development staff, as led by Shinji Mikami, weren't too concerned with story at first, primarily because Mikami had no interest in writing one.
A haunted house doesn't need a script or story. My thoughts on the game RE were not like another game with a story. And I tried to explain to the management of Capcom, but every time I was called on to go to a meeting, my boss said, "When are you going to finish the story and script?"
They had only a basic, kinda wacky premise in mind. If the scope of the game were to be expanded, someone else would have to be brought on to handle that work. For that reason, Mikami then hired a 25-year-old man named Kenichi Iwao.
I joined the project in mid-development. Originally, there were no humans in the game, just cyborgs. It was supposed to be a horror game still, but by having these Terminator-style characters, it just wasn't very scary at all. I decided to change up the characters.
Kenichi had already worked on Demon's Crest and Disney's Magical Quest 3 for Capcom, and would also write for Breath of Fire 3. He was tasked with refining everything for this new horror game, plot out the scenario, and write the collectible documents, among other responsibilities as a game planner, like sound design and helping to design the final gameplay mechanics. That sounds like too much work for one person, but game development teams were much smaller at the time, with most devs juggling multiple roles within a team and assisting each other when necessary. Everybody helped everyone else when possible. With Kenichi guiding the game narrative going forward, Sweet Home was no longer a primary inspiration for the project. It's well known that the final version of Resident Evil would be inspired heavily by Alone in the Dark, and that's because at the time it was Kenichi's favorite game. But there's another more obscure title that had an influence on what would become Resident Evil.
Well, I haven't talked about this before, but there's a game called Alcazar the Forgotten Fortress for the MSX that was an inspiration. There are numerous castles in the game, but the dungeons you end up exploring are random. As a result, the amount of supplies in those dungeons were extremely limited. There are a lot of different ways enemies attack, and you have to strategize, like grouping enemies together to go around them.
Sometime later, they finally settled on a new scenario for the game. Players would control one of 4 characters who are stranded in an isolated mansion filled with monsters trying to escape. For a time, a cult was meant to be responsible for the monsters. The 4 playable characters would be survivors of a plane crash, and the goal was to reach a helicopter to escape. The cult was later swapped for an evil corporation of some kind. The 4 playable characters were changed into SWAT team members, and the goal was to rescue surviving researchers in each stage before escaping. But these ideas would continue to develop. In terms of story, though, it's always important to come up with characters that the audience can connect with in some way, and the cast for this game would go through a lot of iterations. It seems Mikami was the one who ultimately decided the protagonists should be part of a special operations team, though he still intended for them to be cyborgs. Kenichi instead set out to create human characters with distinct personalities and backgrounds. And so, the Raccoon SWAT Bravo team were created, with the plot seeing them sent on a mission to Harnby, Arkansas, where the scenario would take place. Those characters bear some resemblance to the ones we know now, but were far from fully developed. The initial playable roster would have consisted of Jill Morrison, Beam Marcurio, cyborg Heinrich Gelzer, with the Eddie Murphy-inspired Ed Dewey being a bonus character that would add some comedy. Mikami seemed dead set on getting cyborgs into the game, with Gelzer being the last remnant of that idea, but Kenichi didn't feel he fit with the direction the project was heading in.
Yes, I made the decision to scrap them. He looked as tough as RoboCop, but the theme of the game was terror and the science fiction elements had gotten too strong.
Looking at some of the translated documents we have thanks to Project Umbrella, you can pretty easily see how elements were swapped around between characters as development progressed. For example, at this early stage you can see Jill was meant to be a teenage prodigy, while the team's co-pilot was a young woman with short hair and seashell earrings named Yuno. At some point these ideas mixed and instead became Rebecca Chambers.
You aren't mad at me about all that, are you?
While Jill received a different backstory entirely. It seems Hideki Kamiya helped in this process, particularly when it came to deciding the final names. He had already named Jill, though Kenichi later changed her last name from Morrison to Valentine in honor of baseball coach Bobby Valentine. It also seems Kamiya suggested renaming Beam to Chris. Another interesting tidbit, Joseph Frost was named after Joseph Joestar, and the original concept for the Tyrant was named Dio. That, my friends, is a JoJo reference. Obviously, while Shinji Mikami to this day likes to take credit for nearly every aspect of development, it was, in fact, a team effort, and many of the young developers cooperating with Kenichi Iwao would later go on to become big names in the industry. During an interview with CrimsonHead.com, another major source I'll link to in the description, Kenichi was asked to reflect on some of their biggest contributions to Resident Evil. Koji Oda came up with the game's Japanese title, Biohazard. Hiroki Kato designed the Spencer Mansion's iconic puzzles. Takashi Nakaya helped with writing character dialogue and notes. And then there's Kazuhiro Aoyama, who sounds like an incredibly interesting guy. A former actor who also trained in karate and judo with dreams of becoming a professional wrestler, until an unfortunate injury stopped him in his tracks. On a whim, he applied for a position at Capcom, eventually becoming the event director on RE1. Essentially serving as the architect of the game's jump scares, most notably the dogs in the hallway. He would one day become the director of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, so now you know the name of the person responsible for your gaming traumas. You're welcome. Seemingly more than anyone else, however, Kenichi seemed to recall spending a lot of time talking with character modeler Jun Takeuchi, who would become integral to the series and Capcom itself. He and Kenichi both shared a fascination with guns, and would speak at length about which weapons should and would be included in the first game. The flamethrower in particular was inspired by an intense love for the movie Aliens. Subscribe for more like this. And just as an amusing side note, it seems Kenichi carries a deep disappointment that Claymore mines were planned but had to be cut in the end. He mentions them in every interview I've read, and talks about how badly he wanted players to be able to use them to set traps for zombies. It almost seems like the thing he regrets most about the final product. And while he never gets brought up in interviews, I want to make sure to mention Isao Oishi. He took great care in designing the characters, making sure they each had a unique silhouette and distinct outfits while still maintaining a cohesive look as a unit. A lot of people played a role in finalizing the game's cast, and the end results are so iconic that these same characters are still being used nearly 30 years later. Granted, they could be used better, but you get my point. The plot also steadily took shape as Kenichi worked on it, scripting and creating a massive flowchart of events, even going so far as to draw storyboards for the cutscenes alongside Kamiya, with the first zombie's introduction being the standout moment that made it to the final game. The scenario was now in what would be its final draft, taking place near a small American Midwest suburb called Raccoon City. Cutting to the chase, the RPD's Special Tactics and Rescue Service ends up stranded in the Spencer Mansion out in the Arklay Forest, finding themselves in the middle of a viral outbreak and a deadly conspiracy involving the Umbrella Corporation. More and more of the things Kenichi personally enjoyed had bled into his work, some of which you'd probably never expect, like choose-your-own-adventure books.
I was definitely influenced by the fighting fantasy game books by Ian Livingstone and Steve Jackson. The British horror concepts really left an impression on me. I kinda wanted to incorporate the feel of those books into Biohazard. There's one cutscene in the game where Barry is talking to Wesker behind a door and Jill can overhear him. I got that idea from these game books.
Fighting fantasy House of Hell specifically inspired the look and the atmosphere of the Spencer Mansion, by his own admission. And all through development, he had been working and cooperating with the dev team, to the point where they began treating him as an authority figure, going to him with questions about this or that, or asking about his viewpoint on a particular aspect of the game. It was almost as if they had begun to see him as the director. Shinji Mikami, the actual director of Resident Evil, supposedly did not like that.
It was probably around the end of 1995. Mikami-san told me he didn't like me acting like a director. He once told me,
Ken-chan, who is the director? I am. Ken-chan deciding everything. Coming to Ken-chan for questions. Isn't that odd? I was talking with Ikihara about wanting you moved to Breath 3. Won't you?
I was very disappointed and protested as there was a lot I had left unfinished. But it was an order and already decided.
Mikami also seemed to have convinced himself that Kenichi had steered the project into a bad direction, as it was said he openly mocked Kenichi's work before his transfer.
Even now, I still remember well when Biohazard was nearly finished development, and Mikami-san negatively said,
"What a game Ken-chan has made."
He had no confidence until he got a high score in Famitsu.
And personally, I think it's interesting that Mikami was making fun of someone else's work. See, one of the aspects of the game that Mikami handled personally were the live-action FMVs. The very same FMVs that are still mocked today and even parodied by people like James Rolfe.
No! Don't go!
Wow. What an asshole.
Over the past 20-something years, a narrative formed that Resident Evil was always meant to emulate cheesy B-horror movies with an intentionally goofy tone. Some of this stems from the horrible English translation done by Tom Shiraiwa. And the terribly directed and horribly performed voice acting certainly doesn't help. But the game's FMVs are most often used as evidence supporting that claim, and Mikami himself sometimes implies that were the case. But that's wrong. The production had long become geared toward making a genuinely scary game with a story that was to be taken seriously, or at least as seriously as the plot of a video game could be taken during the 90s. And when Mikami went off to shoot those pivotal scenes and returned with, well, that, nobody was happy.
A lot of the staff members were disappointed and embarrassed with the final result. I don't know about the origins of the actors used for the intro and the voiceover, but I don't really like the fact that those particular actors were used. I think Kamiya and Oishi were angry.
To his credit, Mikami does mostly admit that he didn't do a great job on those scenes.
That cheap shoot was totally my mistake. I didn't have enough time and money, and also I picked the actors only by looks. Now I think I should pick by performance, but too late now.
If one were so inclined, you could easily imagine Mikami was humiliated by the reception to his work, and developed some measure of jealousy toward a subordinate who seemed to be gaining the respect of those around him. I'm not saying that's what led to Mikami reportedly removing Kenichi from his team. Only Mikami himself can ever know if that's the case, but I can definitely imagine it being a possibility. And so, Kenichi's work ended then and there, as he was immediately shifted over to the Breath of Fire 3 team. Once his job with that project was done, he ultimately made the choice to leave Capcom altogether. The game you know, the game you've played, mostly uses the material Kenichi had finished before his departure. We'll talk a little later about the epilogue that was written but cut at the last minute, but for now let's discuss some of the concepts and backstory that never got to be implemented at all. For one thing, it seems Wesker ended up with a much smaller role than intended. Many of his planned scenes were either cut or never written prior to Kenichi's transfer, all of which were meant to give the character more context and properly foreshadow his eventual portrayal. The Tyrant also got shafted. It was meant to be far more impressive than what we see, with abilities never revealed in the final game. For one, it was the cause of the Arclay outbreak, releasing the T-Virus during a procedure, because that's a thing the Tyrant was gonna be able to do. You ever notice those weird tubes on its back? Here's the deal. As Kenichi originally envisioned, the Tyrant would have wreaked absolute havoc on a battlefield. It was meant to be deployed into a war zone, dispersing an airborne version of the T-Virus from its back to infect enemy combatants, creating zombies and building an army everywhere it went. It could then control the zombies, which is the entire reason the damn thing is named the Tyrant in the first place, and direct them to attack and turn even more people. When the area was finally cleared out, Tyrant would wipe out the zombies or direct them to slaughter each other, after which point it would be picked up and transported elsewhere. Rinse and repeat. But Kenichi wasn't able to do anything with that idea or even mention it in any files, which results in a final boss that isn't all that interesting when you think about it. Especially considering it's hyped up as the ultimate BOW. What's funny is, some of the official material out there even mentions that there's no definitive report about the Tyrant and what it can do, which almost seems like a meta-acknowledgement that Kenichi never got to finish his work. Bravo Team would have also been given more time to be actual characters. A couple of them, I don't think it's ever been stated who, were to be infected early on and have the T-Virus gradually overtake them throughout the game. Instead, they're relegated to cannon fodder status. Keep in mind, not all of this was cut just because of the transfer. The team just found themselves running out of time. Many of the planned areas were cut. The Arclay facility was meant to be much more of a compound made up of several mansions, a tower, and other explorable locations. Hell, even the heliport was meant to be its own structure instead of just a heliport on the main mansion's roof. Once the areas got cut, obviously any plot points that happened within them had to be either abandoned or shuffled around. But I promised to tell you about a deleted epilogue, didn't I? Yeah, it seems there was never a stage where it was fully finished and implemented, but we do have the text, thanks to Project Umbrella. And it's a flash forward where Chris, living in an unnamed small town, reminisces about his days with stars until his daughter, named Matilda, insists they go fishing together. It's brief, but unexpectedly sweet for a horror game. Plus, in a way, it kinda reminds me of the ending to Stand By Me. And so Biohazard finally released on March 26, 1996. It seems the team weren't entirely confident in the final product. An important writer had essentially been fired, roughly half the game had been cut, and the most important scenes were an absolute joke.
Are you tired, Rebecca?
Sorry, Chris. I am.
You did a really good job. This case was just too weird. This case was...
And yet still had to be censored in some regions. But it was a hit. Not immediately. It took a little time for word of mouth to spread. But Biohazard, or Resident Evil, performed exceptionally well, becoming one of the Sony Playstation's flagship games, kicking off a series that's still around today. It was also extremely influential. Konami's directive to have their own Resident Evil resulted in the creation of Silent Hill. And when Squaresoft later wanted Parasite Eve 2 to feel more like Resident Evil, they looked to bring on one man to script and direct it, Kenichi Iwao, and he brought some other ex-Capcom friends with him.
Since I did too much of a director's work, Mikami-san made it a reason in the final stretch and removed me from the staff. I was dissatisfied with it, left the company and went to Squaresoft. As other staff knew about it, several later joined me.
Shinji Mikami, meanwhile, has been very happy to take credit for most of the work that went into that first game. He seems to especially go out of his way to erase Kenichi Iwao from the story, and if he ever bothers to allude to his involvement at all, it's deliberately minimized. Here's what he said in an interview with Games Radar.
For the first 6 months of development, I was the team. 6 months down the line, I was joined by another planner, but after 3 months of working together, he left to do work on another project.
More than that, his name was also left out of the credits for the Nintendo DS version of the game, as well as the 2002 GameCube remake and its subsequent remasters. Kenichi could easily have a chip on his shoulder about the whole thing, but he only ever mentions the snubbing as a matter of fact. It seems he holds no ill will against the others, nor Shinji Mikami himself.
However, I don't dislike Mikami-san. I believe it was Mikami-san's competence that could see the game through to completion after I left the team. In addition, having already left the company when Biohazard won the Scenario Award at Tokyo Game Show, Mikami-san met me later at the show and told me, "Ken-chan, you should have actually appeared in the award ceremony."
Internally, one could argue Capcom weren't so sure of Mikami's competence themselves. When it came time to greenlight a sequel, the company had a particular stipulation.
Once the first game was finished, Capcom told me immediately to make a sequel. Only I was told to redefine my role for Biohazard 2 as a producer. And at the time, that really made me feel down.
They instead made Hideki Kamiya the director of that project. In an interview with the YouTube channel Archable, Mikami admitted to butting heads with Kamiya throughout the development of RE2, a troubled project that had to be restarted pretty far into its dev cycle. He ultimately learned a lesson and backed off, and in that same interview gave a pretty good definition for what a producer should be, a pillar in the background. Shinji Mikami would also serve as a producer on the project that was once internally referred to as Resident Evil 1.9, which would eventually become Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, a game he doesn't seem to hold in very high regard, favoring Code Veronica instead. Mikami wouldn't return to direct an entry in the series until Resident Evil 4, a game with a disastrous development cycle that was restarted several times. He was left with no choice but to take the director's position for what was its fourth and final iteration. Famously, when time, as well as Capcom's patience, was running out, he was forced to write RE4's final plot within a couple of weeks. And it shows. Even so, it eventually became a sales juggernaut due almost entirely to its fun gameplay, which only added to the legend of Shinji Mikami. He would eventually leave Capcom, but my interest in the story pretty much ends here. Resident Evil is still around today, though I think it's safe to say the fandom is pretty divided. There are fans that miss the classic style, fans who loved the over-the-shoulder action blockbuster style, and those who prefer the first-person stuff, with lots of other subgroups mixed in between.
Thank you!
There's actually a quote I found on RE Horror that seems pretty interesting in hindsight. I wasn't going to mention it because the translation is pretty rough, but hell, I might as well. It's from Shinji Mikami, seemingly just before RE4's development.
Games is made up of the users' and creators' communications. So I want to leave the part of the ideas that the users be able to feel, this is RE, this is what we want. I want to keep the fans that really understand what RE is. If we lost the real fans and create the game, it is just making money. We are entertainers, but not businessmen. Creators. I don't want to forget that.
Sadly, I think a lot of people at Capcom forgot that. Only the people who worked on those games will ever know what really went on behind the scenes. But when someone like Kenichi Iwao has a story to share, that's worth paying attention to. He doesn't even seem to hold a grudge, he just kinda says everything plainly. For me, I just get irritated when one person is credited for an entire team's work. Even more so when that work is reused later and somebody's name is left off the credits. Shinji Mikami was never the singular reason those earlier Resident Evil games were good. The same can be said of Kojima with Metal Gear, or anyone else who gets elevated above their peers on a team project. I don't think that'll ever stop though, and it's a shame. But that's all I got for you guys today. I'm baffled, and hope to see you next time. Bye. There exists an incredibly rare Japanese official Resident Evil prequel novel that came before all of S.T. Perry's RE adaptations. Something that I'm betting a lot of you didn't even know existed. A story that fleshes out Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield in ways you'd probably never expect, and tells of the chaos going on in Raccoon City before the events of the first game. So take a seat as I tell you all about the English translation of this novel known simply as Resident Evil, the book. The story begins with Chris being woken up late at night when his phone rings. As a member of STARS, he knows such a call means someone has died, which is an unfortunate part of his job, as it also reminds him of the phone call that informed him of the death of his parents. But that's not the case this time. Instead, he hears the voice of a dead man, his best friend Billy, a researcher for Umbrella who reportedly died when a corporate jet crashed 3 months prior. Billy goes on to explain that he wasn't on the plane when it crashed. Umbrella had faked his death because they needed him to disappear. Now he needs Chris's help, and has information on the murders happening around Raccoon City, which he'll share as soon as Chris meets with him.
The park near Victory Lake. You know, to the north of the city. Get there as quick as you can. There are people trying to kill me, Chris.
Chris jumps into his Shelby Cobra and speeds off, his mind racing, thinking about his friend. They lost contact for 4 years while Chris was in the Air Force, but immediately reconnected when he came back to Raccoon City, until the plane crash. He's driving fast, and driving distracted. By the time his headlights reveal a woman in the middle of the road, all he can do is swerve and plow his car into the bank alongside the road. He briefly checks himself for broken bones before leaping from his wrecked car, running to check on the woman. To cut down on the gruesome details for YouTube, let's just say she's momentarily conscious, but not in one piece, and her insides are on the outside. In other words, there's nothing he can do for her. A desperate scream gets his attention, and he spots a convertible with its top down on the side of the road, its driver being mauled by some kind of large dog. He grabs his Beretta and fires a shot into the air, hoping to scare it away. Instead, it approaches him, carrying the stench of death and decay. With no other choice, Chris empties his gun into the thing as it moves closer. It barely reacts, but does head off into the forest. Not out of fear, though, it was more like it lost interest. The driver is dead, the woman too, and Chris realizes that the damage done to them resembles the recent murders he'd been investigating, the first of which had happened 6 months prior. Billy will have to wait. Chris gets on his radio and reports to the RPD and stays at the crime scene until officers arrive. Only then does he hop in his not-so-pristine Cobra and head off again for Victory Lake. That concludes Chapter 1, and it does a lot to establish Chris's personality. He's not necessarily the most responsible person. He can be called into work at any time, but implies he had a few too many drinks before going to bed. Even deems it necessary to dump half a bottle of water on his head to get himself moving to meet Billy. Also proves he's not a particularly attentive driver the way he Harry Masons himself off the road. But in the heat of the moment, he tries to do the right thing. Stares down a seemingly wild animal that just attacked 2 people, and also preserves the scene of the crime until backup arrives. The most interesting tidbits revealed here are that his parents were killed when their van was hit by an 18-wheeler, and every late-night call he receives reminds him of the moment he was informed about it. Oh, and Chris also complains about being woken up from his favorite dream, where he's a rock star being swarmed by adoring female fans. If you listen carefully right this minute, off in the distance you can hear the faint sobbing of those weird-ass Nivenfield shippers. Chapter 2 starts with Chris at Victory Park, but there's no sign of Billy. He looks around for a while, remembering that he and Billy used to play there as kids, leading him to check the old boathouse. It's empty, though he finds a gold necklace on the floor, one half of a pair that he had given to Billy and his fiancée Rose. Now there's proof that the caller had actually been his old friend. He returns to the bloody scene he had left earlier, which is now packed with police officers, including Chief Brian Iron. And no, I didn't get that wrong. He's called Iron here, not Irons with an S. But I'm gonna use the latter just because it's what I'm used to. Irons immediately grills Chris about fleeing from the area, though he quickly makes up a cover story about chasing after someone, or something, he saw. Even here, Irons isn't shown in a positive light. He's basically described to be a greasy asshole who terrorizes stars at every opportunity. And Chris, understandably, tells him to back off. And I really like this bit that comes next, so I'll just read it to you now. For a long moment he glared at me with the self-righteous fervor of a Wild West evangelist. The man was a walking ego. I'd even heard that he had planned to run for mayor in the next election. 10 years before, Raccoon City had been a sleepy farming community, and the mayor was kind of a glorified dog catcher. But then the Umbrella Company moved in and built a large research plant, and suddenly there were new faces and new buildings all over the place. Before anyone knew what was happening, half the population of Raccoon City was directly dependent on the Umbrella Company for their livelihood. Suddenly the mayor's job was a plum to be squeezed, a position of power from which a crafty politician might line his own pockets. As the population swelled, crime had also increased. It got so bad that the company proposed establishing a special crime-fighting force, paid for in half with corporate funds. The city had agreed, and STARS was formed. In only 3 paragraphs, it establishes the history of Raccoon City, the corruption of Brian Irons, and the origin of STARS. The confrontation between both men is interrupted when the local news reporters show up, and Irons eagerly greets them to mug for the camera. The deputy chief, who isn't named here, also questions Chris, who then talks about his encounter with that big, terrifying dog that was deadly, fearless, and seemingly impervious to bullets. The deputy chief decides, oh, well, clearly it's just your average, ordinary, everyday case of rabies, yes sir. And now I'm left to assume this schmuck's name is Barney freaking Fife. There's a reference 2 people will understand. See you at Sunday bingo, fellow geezers. Chris leaves again, and that's the end of Chapter 2. One that effortlessly lays some foundations for world building in the Resident Evil universe. And I do love the justification for a unit like STARS existing in such a small town, as this was long before Raccoon City was retconned into being a large city. Although idiots do love to argue with me about that. Chris arrives at the RPD and steps into the STARS office, where an emotional Barry Burton argues with the calm, steely Albert Wesker. There are now 5 confirmed victims killed in the same gruesome way, and Barry is tired of STARS sitting on the sidelines while innocent people die. Wesker simply states that they'll act when Irons issues an order. Jill Valentine and Joseph Frost overhear this and interrupt.
You've been giving us the same answer for months now,
Jill said, her big eyes flashing. I liked her. With her short hair and slim body, one might underestimate her strength and stamina. In reality, she was a tough, intelligent police officer who had pulled more than one STARS member out of trouble.
Yeah. Every time we even bring up the subject, you give us a lecture on the chain of command.
We couldn't function without chain of command,
Wesker said calmly. He was like that. Cool, collected, sure of his position. You never really knew what the man was thinking, only that whatever he had in mind, it was going to be done his way. But Jill insists things have changed. One of their own encountered the killer now, and it's at that point when the whole team turn their attention to him. And he hesitates because, again, he knows he'll sound crazy if he starts talking about bulletproof dogs. He sighs and tells them. Not about Billy, though. Talking about a dead best friend who's alive again might be too much of a complication. He's keeping that one to himself for now. The others don't really want to believe his story, but they do because he's Chris Redfield and he doesn't make a habit of spreading bullshit, especially on the job. Wesker demands a written report and dismisses Chris to go write one, but Jill follows for a private conversation. She knows him well enough to notice when he's keeping a secret, and calls him out on it, practically interrogating him, though he continues dodging her questions, until there's a moment where we get some insight on Jill's motivations. The sound of children playing outside reverberated through the long hall, and Jill shivered at the sound. Visibly shaken, she walked to the window and looked out. The light coming in cast golden highlights in her hair, and despite her interrogation this morning, I had a flash of how she was feeling. Jill loved kids, and they loved her back. Several of her daring escapades as a member of STARS had made the local news, and thousands of youngsters now looked upon her as their heroine. Then the trill of a young girl's laugh echoed from below, and I suddenly remembered why Jill was so upset. Her neighbor's children, 2 young girls Jill had become a second mother to, had been among the beast's first victims. They'd been on a camping trip with their parents when they wandered into the nearby woods. When their parents found them an hour later, they were already dead, their bodies horribly mangled. I'm sorry, Jill. I know what those kids meant to you.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I'm not getting anywhere with you. Later.
Give me a little time, Jill. I think an important part of the puzzle was dropped in my lap last night, but I can't be sure yet. When I am, you are the first one I'll call.
Guess I'll have to settle for that.
Subscribe for more like this. And that's the end of Chapter 3. We sadly don't get to kick off a buddy cop story starring Chris and Jill as they track down some clues, but what we do get here is pretty good. It instantly establishes the dynamic between these members of Alpha Team and their frustrations with Wesker's leadership. Wesker himself is portrayed as being uptight and by the book, but his dialogue while arguing with Barry gives off the impression, to me anyway, that he chooses his words very carefully to still come across as sympathetic, regardless of whether he feels any real semblance of sympathy or not. Basically, he's got that sociopath mastered. Jill is really the star of this chapter, though. The series desperately needs this kind of Jill. One who can be highly motivated, tough, and also refuse to take any BS, while still being warm and vulnerable. Or, human. It's also nice to see how she and Chris interact. There is a certain level of respect between them. She noticed he was being sketchy and grilled him on it, but in the end, with some disappointment, leaves it up to him to do whatever he feels has to be done instead of ratting him out to Wesker. The 4th chapter is pretty short and doesn't really have a lot going on, but it's still entertaining. Chris decides his best course of action is to stroll right in through Umbrella's front door with only a flimsy cover story prepared. He's not a cop. No. He's the executor of Billy Rabbitson's estate, here to collect information on his employment, see if he had any insurance policies or things like that. Which is all fine and good, except Billy's fake death was months ago, and he has a family. He's able to get past the receptionist pretty easily by playing the sad, grieving friend card, and gets sent up to meet with the director of human resources, who sees through the BS immediately. Because, all that information was sent to Billy's family months ago. Oops. Still, Chris plays it off as a misunderstanding and prepares to leave, pausing long enough to tell the director that he's a member of STARS, just to see the surprise wash over him. It was pretty funny to see Chris trying to infiltrate Umbrella with no real forethought. Keep in mind, he doesn't know yet just how evil and corrupt the company is. All he knows at this point is that they're involved with the local government and that his buddy claims they faked his death, which he's still never gotten any evidence about. So maybe shining a spotlight on himself and his team wasn't a great idea, as I imagine Umbrella would take an interest in him specifically after this. You can draw a pretty straight line from this moment to that RE3 epilogue where Jill later goes to Chris's place and finds it ransacked with him missing in action. The one where either someone had clearly been stabbed in his hideout, or Chris just ate some bad Taco Bell and got a case of the runs while on the run. Either way, that's just unfortunate. An absolutely exhausted Chris returns home and gets kicked right in the balls by the newspaper waiting on his doorstep. It seems local reporters have decided to portray him as a bumbling moron who allowed a murderer to get away. With tensions rising in Raccoon City, that's not great for him. His answering machine is full of messages from those same reporters, plus Wesker and even his sister. It's interesting to note that she wasn't named here, by the way. Makes me wonder if this was written before Claire was finalized for Resident Evil 2. Within moments, Chris begins to feel like he's being watched, and he retrieves his shotgun and sidearm from the bedroom just in time for a foul-smelling attacker to burst through the window and grab him by the throat. He fights off this rotten fruit ninja, but it vanishes as abruptly as it appears. He runs outside, trying to give chase, only to see Jill emerge from the tree line. What the hell is she doing there, you ask? Well, it just so happens that her Harley broke down on the way to Chris's house, so she took a shortcut through the woods. Jill understandably wants to know why he's waving around a shotgun like a lunatic outside his house, which also has a broken window. And the brazen bugger still tries to play it cool. It's a long story, Jill, I said, not wanting to tell her I'd been attacked by a corpse. I figured that as part of the STARS team, she'd find out what we were up against soon enough. Look, I've got something important to do. Can I drop you somewhere?
Bitch, are you for real?
And it's at this point when the two of them exchange dialogue that isn't just cringe-inducingly awful, but it also reeks of peak late 2000s era Shadow the Hedgehog fanfiction writing. Jill fixed me with her Rock of Gibraltar look, the kind of stare that says only the total destruction of the planet will sway her.
Why are you so anxious to get rid of me?
Whatever put such a wicked thought in your head?
Cut the bull, Chris. I know you. You're working on some angle, aren't you? You always were a lone wolf.
And you want to join my solitary pack?
I would kill for the chance.
I didn't need to ask her who she would kill. You know, Jill, you're the most beautiful person who's ever threatened me. Okay? You're in.
What the hell is even that?
Okay, there's some things to keep in mind here. One, this was translated to English from Japanese, and you never know what liberties were taken with the localization process unless you can read the original yourself. Two, this was written after the first game released. These characters didn't have fully established personalities and backstories, and really, this was the first tangible piece of media outside of the game that was meant to establish them. So I guess Chris is a try-hard neckbeard who fancies himself a badass lone wolf, and Jill is a desperate and lonely legbeard who buys into it. Good to know. Hound Wolf from Resident Evil Village also makes a lot of sense now, since I can easily imagine this Chris nicknaming himself Alpha and hanging out with a bunch of dorks calling themselves things like Night Owl and Tundra. And look, I'm not just roasting the dialogue here. It's extremely jarring that a zombie just instant transmissions in and out of the scene for a quick throat hug and then Jill wanders out of the woods a second later. It's contrived. It screams of, well, there's been no zombies in the zombie story for a while, so I might just put one here now. But oh wait, the chapter's not done yet, because with our buddy cop duo now working together, they jump into Chris's famous Shelby and speed off. I started the Shelby, floored the accelerator, and lit up the tires across the front lawn. The sleek Sportster roared down the road like a rocket, pinning Jill to the back of her seat.
What is this, the Batmobile?
There was a call from Wesker on my answering machine. Do you know what he wants?
Your hide on his wall.
You see, the consequences of Chris's ill-fated attempt at going undercover to talk to Umbrella HR are now in full swing. The HR director called Irons chewed out Wesker, and now Wesker sent Jill to pick up Chris and bring him to the station. But Chris is a rebel who doesn't play by the rules, and now Jill's riding shotgun.
For both our sakes, this angle of yours better pan out, Chris. Know what I mean?
If we turn up something important, we're instant darlings of the media, and Brian and Wesker won't dare touch us. If we come up empty, there'll be two hides on Wesker's wall.
If I'm going to be skinned alive, I'd like to know why. What's going on, Chris?
For the next 10 minutes, I filled in Jill as I drove. That's all I can tell you, I finished. I'm convinced my old friend Billy is not only alive, but that he has something to do with the terrible murders in Raccoon City.
It's all so fantastic. If I didn't know you, Chris, I'd say you made the whole thing up.
And that finally ends the wonkiest chapter so far. Thank you to my generous supporters. Val and Field arrive at Billy's cabin in the woods sometime later, and the door is, of course, locked. Jill couldn't resist.
You forgot to get the key from Rose. Am I right?
You're right. You're also cruel. Jill rolled her eyes and took a hairpin from her short bangs. She bent to the lock, and maybe a full 2 seconds later, the door was open.
After you, Chris,
she said, condescension dripping from her voice like honey from a hive. I swallowed my pride and walked past her. They look around for a while, but notice a distinct lack of Billies. Just as they're about to leave, they sniff out a putrid stench in the air, one Chris has become too familiar with. A moment later, we heard them, outside in the yard. But it wasn't the normal sound of approaching footfalls. No, the creatures coming at us were dragging their club-like feet through the dust as if their legs were too heavy to lift. From the noise, I guessed that at least 4 or 5 creatures were nearing the cabin. Jill and I stood riveted to the floor, our eyes locked on the open doorway. Outside, a chorus of spine-chilling moans began to rise, a diabolical dirge from the dead. We braced for the attack, and seconds later the creatures burst through the door. They went for us like huge, 2-legged pit bulls, and I could hear Jill screaming as we fought for our lives. Instead of using their guns, Chris and Jill grapple with the zombies for a while, giving Chris some time to really analyze and describe just how gross and gory and smelly they are. Just as he and Jill are about to be forced to reload their save, Billy bursts in and shouts some solid advice from the doorway.
Shoot them.
Only then does Chris fire the shotgun he's had on him this entire time. And he watches as the zombie's wound regenerates, prompting more advice from Billy.
Shoot them in the head. That stops pretty much any living creatures. Do you even biology, bro?
Chris frees himself and then Jill, and takes so long checking on her that by the time they turn their attention to Billy, he's become a feast for 3 other zombies. Oops! So they kill them and drag what's left of Billy into the kitchen, barricading the door behind them. Billy's not having a great day on account of his throat and his chest having windows now, but Chris still seems optimistic. Hang in there, old buddy. We'll get you to a hospital. You're gonna make it. You gotta keep thinking that, Billy. You're going to make it. Thankfully, Billy isn't an idiot and immediately tries to share as much info as he can. Says he was held in a secret research lab, forced to create something called the T-virus alongside other scientists that created zombies. And he's the only one who escaped. And then he dies because this version of Chris and Jill freaking suck. So they promptly blast their way back to the car and hop in. I put 5 miles between us and the zombies before I eased my foot back off the accelerator. I looked over at Jill. Her face was still ashen, but that determined look was back. I'm glad you were here with me.
I'm not.
And then they joke about wanting to see Wesker's face when they make their report and speed merrily back to the RPD. And the chapter ends just as quickly as Billy's life. R.I.P. Billy, you deserved a better friend than Chris Lone Wolf Redfield. They get to the RPD in the middle of a crisis as Wesker is pacing around the office while Richard Aiken is yelling into a radio. Star's Bravo team is missing. The locations of all the murders seemed to be happening all around one point on the map, where an old mansion happens to be located. Here it's not referred to as the Spencer Mansion or even the Arklay Mansion, but rather the Old City Guest House. Wesker had sent Bravo to investigate and they haven't been heard from since. So Chris and Jill spill the beans. About Billy, Umbrella, the zombies, all of it. And the captain is suspiciously quick to believe such an outlandish story.
It's all just crazy enough to make sense. A leading research scientist gets shanghaied to work on a hush-hush project, and something goes wrong. Real wrong. The researcher, Billy, ends up creating a diabolical virus that turns ordinary men and women into soulless robotic killers.
So what do we do, Captain?
We're going to return in force to the place where Bravo vanished.
And before long, Star's Alpha team flies to the site, and more specifically here it's described that they land on the front lawn of the old guest house. They pause for a moment before exiting the chopper, hearing the cries of the undead all around them. The end. And boy, howdy, that book really put the bed halfway through, huh? Now let me talk about the last chapter a bit before I broadly review the whole thing. It's short and feels rushed, as if the author had a page limit and found himself having to suddenly race to the finish line. Another thing is, obviously Richard is not supposed to be with Alpha Team. Even the chapter's illustration in the Japanese version shows Joseph being the one handling the radio, making it extra odd. And I suspect this may be an issue with the localization, which could very well be the cause of a lot of problems with this official English translation. Now, you can find the Japanese version on the Internet Archive, but I can't read Japanese and therefore can't compare the two versions of this story. But there's a brief note on the Resident Evil Wiki that states the translator took a number of liberties with the English version of the book. It only cites a couple of examples, one of which is the presence of more product placement in this English version. But it also points out that originally it wasn't Jill who Chris talked to in Chapter 5. It was Rose, Billy's fiancée, who only gets a couple of brief mentions in the English story. And the Chapter 5 illustration shows this. I could be wrong, but I'd assume that also means that Rose is the one he went to the cabin with. That's a pretty massive creative liberty to take already, but there's also an illustration that appears to show Chris and Rose with a wounded Billy, except a hunter is shown, not a group of zombies. So basically, I don't know what the hell's going on. All I can do is look at this English version, and it's a mess. If you were to read it on its own, just as a book you randomly picked up one day with no knowledge of Resident Evil at all, it starts off pretty good. Chris is a likable protagonist to follow, Raccoon City and its political inner workings make for an intriguing setting, and that first roadside encounter with a Cerberus was shocking and thrilling. Plus, the mystery with Billy's fake death and the ominous umbrella company is set up pretty well. But the wheels start wobbling around Chapter 4 with Chris's ultimately pointless visit to Umbrella. And then the wheels fall off in Chapter 5 with ninja zombies and terrible dialogue. And it's downhill from there. As a Resident Evil prequel, it fails spectacularly. It serves up too much information to the characters far too soon. Here, before the events of the first game even begin, Chris and Jill know Umbrella developed something called the T-Virus that mutates people and animals into nearly unstoppable monsters. They don't know the hows or the whys, and they at least remain unaware that Wesker is a traitor, but that's still way too much information to arm them with before they even get to the mansion. There's way too many continuity errors for this story to be an actual prequel to the events of the first game, even for a series of games that today has a reputation for its bad continuity. Fans of the S.D. Perry Resident Evil books probably felt a sense of deja vu earlier, right? Certain elements like Chris's friend Billy and Jill's friendship with her neighbor's daughters were also used in the Resident Evil novels by S.D. Perry. Perry herself hadn't read this prequel story though. When you read interviews with her, she doesn't even remember where that info came from, because she had no contact with Capcom. However, her editor, Marco Palmieri, did. And since he was the one providing her notes and corrections, she has suggested that those backstory tidbits came from him. There were differences though, especially with Billy. Perry's version of Billy still worked for Umbrella, but his death had never been faked. Instead, he simply called one night and begged Chris to meet him at a local diner, but never showed up and was never seen again. I would talk more about the S.D. Perry books, but that'll be a series of videos I do down the road. I don't run a Resident Evil channel, so my next video will be related to one of my other interests. Subscribe and stay tuned if you like. To wrap up, would I recommend Resident Evil the book? Nah, it was promising, but really crapped out by the end. But if you want to read it for yourself, Project Umbrella has it available on their site. That's where I read it, and they've done a great job preserving lots of Resident Evil media. That's all I got for you guys today. I'm baffled, and hope to see you all next time. Bye! Hey, I always thought these Spencer properties had traps set up. Guess this is just a normal mansion. Oh, come on, that's so lazy! If you enjoyed this video, please consider funding more. For as little as $2 a month, you too can help a sleep-deprived buffoon make pointless videos. Subscribe to my Patreon to get early access to videos, updates, and sneak peeks at what I'm working on, the occasional exclusive reaction vids, VR Let's Plays, and more. Plus, if I ever get enough patrons for it, I can eventually start doing polls to decide what my next videos will be, and maybe some other fun stuff down the road. And if Patreon isn't your thing, a one-time donation to my Ko-fi would be appreciated just as much. Or if you just plain don't wanna, that's cool too. Thanks for watching. I can honestly say I don't know what to expect from a Resident Evil game anymore. Although, you know what, I'll just say Village was straight garbage. 7 was not great either. Ethan and Mia and their moldy daughter were some of the worst characters of all time. Hopefully they do better in that regard with this, but let's just watch the trailer and go through it. We're at the FBI. Investigation Summary Report. Incident 4th victim of unidentified disease. Summary of incident. A deceased individual was discovered at an abandoned government office. Preliminary analysis suggests that deceased may be linked to a series of... She clearly does a lot of investigating, because look at this cubicle. She looks a lot like Rose, to be honest.
Grace! Grace! Grace Ashcroft.
Yes?
Grace Ashcroft, or Ashcroft as the subtitles say.
Coming.
So will she be related to Alyssa Ashcroft is the thing. Because Alyssa was mentioned, you know, she's the Outbreak character. She was mentioned in 7, like an Easter egg. She wrote a book.
The report you asked for yesterday, it'll be ready in 3. No, 2 days, tops.
Put a hold on that for now. We found another body. One that exhibits the same pathology as the others we've been investigating. Now, I need a good technical analyst on this.
Okay.
I need your eyes on the crime scene. The Remwood Hotel.
Remwood Hotel.
I know that's where your mother was murdered.
Ooh. Oh yeah, that's definitely Alyssa. That looks like RE Engine Alyssa Ashcroft to me.
Alyssa died 8 years ago.
Alyssa died 8 years ago, okay. So that they killed off Alyssa Ashcroft, but Outbreak is canon to some degree. We know that for sure now, in spite of the Marvin stuff being switched up with RE2 make. Yeah, the way this guy's designed, the way he's shot, and the way it's kind of red and hazy, he reminds me of the friggin' Raincoat Killer from Deadly Premonition. That's really all I can say because, I mean, there's nothing to glean from this.
Alyssa died 8 years ago. Perhaps it's time for you to face the past. Grace.
Okay, so by this point she's been injured in the game. She's bleeding, her chest is wrapped up and everything. Cool looking environment.
They're coming. I know now that you're the one that I've been searching for. The special one. The chosen one. Miss Ashcroft.
That's worrisome. Chosen one, special one. That I just really hope we're not in for another Rose character or an Alice character from the movies, or even another Wesker for that matter. Just don't give the character virus powers or friggin' anime powers.
The chosen one. Miss Ashcroft.
Investigating all these strange deaths, huh?
We need to keep our voices down.
Have you seen the same shit I've seen?
Please know that you are my hope.
Everyone's gone.
Stay away from that!
I don't believe that'll be a character that we know already. So I want to point out in the background, there appears to be a creature standing in a doorway. No, okay, you know what? That's not a creature in the background. That's just a statue of a horse rearing back. Yeah, Mr. Raincoat Killer is definitely going to get up close and personal with his victims. Suppose he won't be doing the deed from afar. I don't believe that guy being strangled will be a character that we know. But then again, who knows with Capcom changing faces on characters, but he kind of looks a little like Dennis Nedry from Jurassic Park to me. Yeah, the look of this environment reminds me of the RPD. Requiem. February 27th, 2026. And coming to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and Steam. Subscribe for more like this. Well, yeah, I'll admit, I did not expect them to focus so much on an Outbreak character. I honestly think that's pretty cool. It sucks that they're killing Alyssa Ashcroft off, especially if it's going to happen off screen. It'd be nice if her section is playable, at least. But it's cool to know that Outbreak is canon to some degree, even though Resident Evil 2 Remake kind of overwrote the stuff with Marvin Branagh. It showed him getting injured in a very different way than 2 Make did. So I wonder how much of Outbreak will be incorporated into this story. I like the way the environments look, but it's the RE engine, and the RE engine is a beautiful and disgusting engine that's perfect for horror games. So that's a given. I'm not a fan of the Raccoon City ruins thing. That's very member-berry to me. Can we just go beyond Raccoon City already? That aspect, like if we're going back to a ruined Raccoon City, and if there is a chosen one plot, those are the things that make me worry. but I'll admit, they make me worry. They don't make me assume it'll be bad. There's nothing in this trailer that makes me assume it'll be bad, but there's nothing in this trailer that makes me assume it'll be great either. It could very much go either way. We really didn't see any gameplay here. Unless I missed something and was blind, I don't think we know that it'll be first person or third person. I would prefer third person. Interesting that Leon wasn't seen anywhere. I've never believed the Dusk Golem leaks, by the way. I'm so tired of getting Dusk Golem articles and rumors linked to me. It's so damn annoying. But yeah, I suppose Outbreak fans have a +1 to be happy about, or maybe bummed that a character has been officially killed off in canon. But let me know what you guys think in the comments, please. I'd love to hear from you guys. Am I being pessimistic? Am I not getting it? And what do you think? I do believe the character... It's weird that the main character resembles Rose so much. It's a young, tiny, blonde girl that hopefully won't have virus powers, though. I'll die on that hill. I do not want superpowers in Resident Evil, damn it. Wesker was enough. There never needed to be other superpowered people besides Wesker. But personally, I think I need to see more before I can make a judgment on anything. But I'm still not really gonna give Capcom the benefit of the doubt. But that's all I got for you guys today. I'm baffled, and hope to see you next time. Bye. I just want to say thanks to my patrons, Emma Evans, Mark Kabuzzi, and Pickle. Thanks, guys. This really means a lot.